This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like really loves.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, people trying to get down.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course you're...
There's a Buick that fits your life, because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
You see, Head & Shoulders has Scalp Shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working!
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
We're all about feeding your family with meat and plant-based protein that's good for the planet, good for you, and just plain good. That's all the protein you need, all on your plate.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like really loves.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course your Buick parks itself. That's so you.
It's just a...
There's a Buick that fits your life, because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working!
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders scalp shield, never not working.
We're all about feeding your family with meat and plant-based protein that's good for the planet, good for you, and just plain good. That's all the protein you need, all on your plate.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Hey, good evening. Welcome to another live edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford here, and joining me as always, or on most Sunday evenings, is my good friend AD Drew, not only of the BCSN, but of D2Football.com, the writer covering the SIAC beat. Drew, how we doing, my man?
Man, I'm kind of thrilled because last week it took 4 of y'all to replace me. 4 people to replace me on the show last week. I mean, shout out to Kelvin Rozier, Kelvin Carter, Dr. Cavill, and Jamie for stretching my seat but keeping it warm while I was doing some SWAC volleyball last week.
Yeah, apparently, no one wants to just listen to me talk by myself up here for 2 hours. So they were like, you got to get some guests. And so I called any and everybody that I could think of,
and everybody responded.
Yeah, hell, a few people ignored me, and a few people didn't, but I appreciate the ones who did and were able to. So we worked it out though, but it was a good show being able to recap this weekend. So we'll get into recapping what I think was an exciting weekend of college football. I think this might have been the first big weekend of the season. I mean, we had top 5 matchups, top 10 matchups, top 25 matchups. Not only, I think Division II, or what we call the non-D1, took center stage a little bit over the Division I side, but we still had some exciting contests, a lot to talk about, as we've started hitting the last quarter of the season for the non-D1 level. There their seasons, they're winding up into their final 3 or 4 weeks before they get into playoff mode. And then we're going to get into talking a little bit about some, what do we call it, the mid-season report, as we like to call it, for the Division I level, Drew?
Yes.
Yeah, so we call it the mid-season report for Division I. We'll do what we usually do. We'll break down the top matchups from not only our top 5 from the BCSN top 5, but also we'll take a look at the HBCU Pro Sports Media top 10 poll. And we'll also actually we'll have week number 4 of the BCSN top 5. Hopefully you saw it during the course of the week. Obviously, you know, without Drew, who helps aggregate that stuff for us, we weren't able to do it live on the show, but it worked out all the same as it came out during the week. I want to remind everybody who's watching us, not only on Facebook and on YouTube, first off, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you are subscribed to that particular channel, especially if it's the YouTube channel. And if you're on Facebook, please make sure you're following us, whether you're watching us on the BCSN SportsWrap page or the Black College Sports Network page. We are part of the Black College Sports Network. 6 years running for this beautiful show that AD and I do, and we hope that you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1. That's the number 1. And also go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. You can find it, as it says right there in the upper right corner. Just search MyJBN and MyBCSN on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So, Drew, as we start week number 7, hard to think. Yeah, this is week number 7 finishing up. I figured we got to start with the game that we were both at. You know, it was we got to start with those homecoming killers. I can't think of any better way or any other name that, and maybe just calling them unbeaten, 1-0. I'm talking about the Benedict College Tigers, Coach Chennis Berry, who really now this is his second full season. That puts him at right now 7-0 season, 5-5 last year, 7-0, 12-5 overall. But you know, his thing is 1-0. I mean, he really does live and preach that 1-0, and so there's no more important game than the game that is right in front of them. The next game, the game that they're at, and so they traveled. What was it, about 5 yards from Columbia? 5 hours from Columbia.
5 yards, yeah, 5 yards.
Well, 1 yard equals an hour. 1 yard equals an hour, right?
Yeah, it's about a 5-hour drive.
Yeah, 5-hour drive from Columbia over to Albany, and of course it was homecoming for Albany State. Looked like some great festivities. I drove up from Orlando. You're not too far from that area, and we had a top look. Our number 2 and number 3 team, right, in the BCSN top 5 heading into the week. You also had number 2 and number 3 in the AD Pro Sports Media mid-major poll. I think they were number 2 and 3 in Dr. Cavill's poll, right? Pretty much consensus across the board, and a lot of the people who separate the 2 polls between your FCS schools and the non-FCS, these were 2 and 3. This was a top 5 matchup. And
yes. And it lived up to it.
It did. I think it lived up to it. And I'll be honest, I was surprised. I did look. Let's set the table. Albany State comes there ranked 13th and then 14th in the nation, something like that. Benedict was 24th, I think, 23rd. So you had a top 25 matchup. Albany State's been in this position before, Drew. So we kind of came in with a certain expectation. What we hadn't seen Benedict at this in this moment. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we saw them take on a good Lane team.
Yes.
We saw them take on a good Fort Valley State team, and they handled those 2 opponents. But this was Albany State, right? And I thought their opening drive to go down and score was I'm talking a punch to the mouth. What's that phrase that Mike Tyson used to say? about opponents when they
Everybody's
walk
got
into the ring with.
everybody's got a plan until they get hit.
I
And
think
that
Albany State
was
had a
Albany
plan.
State until they got
They
hit.
had a plan, and Eric Phoenix came out, the quarterback, and he played. I mean, if he's not the SIAC player of the week, I mean, and look, and there's some guys who had some ridiculous numbers this week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if Eric Phoenix is not the offensive player of the week, then I don't know who's voting, because he came out on the first drive, pew, 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 just throwing it all over the place, punched Albany State in the mouth. Second drive, punched him. I mean, he went like, what was he? 9 for 9?
But the second drive was a 3 and out, but the third drive is when he punched him back in the mouth again. I believe he started 11 for 11, if I remember.
Yeah, 11-11 to start the game. Let's start with the opening stanza. What are your thoughts on just the opening stanza of the contest?
I mean, it was, for lack of a better word, it was like we came to play. And when you're the road team, you know you've got to get up early to take the crowd out of the game, especially a packed crowd that you had at the ASU Coliseum, over 10,000 in attendance for homecoming. They had to come in and establish it early. And despite 10,000 fans being there, probably 9,000 of them or 9,500 of them, Albany State Golden Ram lovers, it was quiet in that stadium after that first drive, and you heard people like, what the hell just happened to us? Because let's break it down even further, Brian. That was the first defensive touchdown that Albany State had given up in conference play. Because the other touchdown that you saw on the scoreboard was a pick six that was ran back against them. So the first defensive touchdown, people were like in shock and all. And you weren't there quite as early as I was, but as I was walking around the stadium a couple hours before the game, people were talking about, man, I be seeing y'all on TV, and I be seeing y'all on YouTube, man. How y'all pick against Albany State? I don't believe y'all picked Benedict to win this game. Actually, I didn't pick anybody to win this game. I just laid out the numbers and the facts, and I had to correct them. But it was nice to see that fans of Albany State, not only recognize me for some of the stuff that I do, because Albany State is the closest HBCU geographically. I'm getting tongue tied now. Geographically to where I live, so I do some things over there when called. But the fact that they also recognize me off of the SportsWrap.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to everybody over there at Albany State who watches the show, recognize what we do. Of course, we were both at Benedict College the weekend before, and so yeah, I think that that opening quarter was I think it was. Let me see if I can find the drive chart, because when I look at the drive chart, the opening drive, and when I talk about punching someone in the mouth in the opening drive, Benedict ran a 16-play drive, 85 yards, scored a touchdown. Then Albany State, 3 plays, punt, you're out. Next possession, Benedict goes 10 plays, 89 yards, and scores a touchdown. I mean, literally, Benedict 13 minutes and 22 seconds of the first quarter. So you said it right there. The crowd, honestly, I don't feel like the Albany State crowd got into the contest until the third quarter. And I mean, but essentially Benedict had taken away what little bit of home field advantage there was. They forced Albany. I mean, Albany State drew head until late in that quarter. Their first possessions went punt. Now, Albany State got into a situation where their best drive came on their third drive in the second quarter, where they started on their own 20-yard line, went 12 plays, 67 yards, and they were forced to punt. Actually, they were forced to go for it on fourth down. And one of the things that you called and you pointed out in the in your article was neither team had the most reliable field goal kicker. And, that hurt Albany State because that was a point where you're down 14-0. You need to
You
get
need to put some points on the board.
something. And they were unable to convert where they were.
And Brian, I need you to break that down a little bit further, and so that those who did not watch the game on HBCU League Pass and the Black College Sports Network realize that was fourth down, and it was 4th and 3 or 4th and 2.
I think it was 4th and 2, maybe.
From the 13-yard line. That is a chip shot 30-yard field goal. A collegiate kicker.
7-20. Yeah, that's a 30-yard field goal.
A collegiate kicker should be able to hit a 30 to 31-yard field goal from straight away, Brian. It wasn't like the ball was on the hash. The ball was in the center of the field. So now I don't know if it was lack of confidence in the kicker, overconfidence in the offense, or the fact that we're down 2 scores in a game that may not have too many opportunities for scores that led to that decision. But all of us who were up in the press box all questioned the decision before they even did not convert it. When they set the offense back on the field on 4th down, we all questioned the decision right there to let's think about go back into it. Albany State also gave about 4 points. That's 3 points right there, and they missed the PAT later on in the 4th quarter. Those 4 points are the difference in the game.
Right. I was trying to look back here and recall for a brief moment what it was that set up that play, because I mean we talk about that time of possession, and the reason that 12-play drive, they missed that field goal, Drew, or it actually didn't take the field goal attempt and ended up turning over on downs. Their defense actually had enough time to rest because I think
that was the turning point of the game.
That was a turning point of the game. That was the first turning point of the game back towards Albany State's favor as they were able to sort of rest the defense. The defense got a 3 and out, forced a punt. I believe the punt was actually more of a shank. It was actually only a 10-yard punt. Yeah, by Jared Eubanks, who was, ironically, he was the SIAC special teams player of the week before, right, from last week. So he only punts a 10-yard punt. So now Albany State starts with the ball on the 25-yard line. 4 plays later, a couple of runs by Deontay Bonneau. Then Cameron Ward had a run, and then he punched in an 8-yard touchdown. That was a turning point in the ball game, right? But what did Benedict do? Benedict turned right around, and on the first play, I believe, was the big run where Benedict started on their own 11-yard line. Zaire Scotland, who I think he had over 100 yards in a day, his biggest run, I think, came on this first play, 1st and 10 on their own 11. He breaks like a 29-yard run, gets it out to the field. And this is all happening with about a minute 15 to play. So here you go. Here's Phoenix, Eric Phoenix, the quarterback for Benedict, tempo, and they end up pushing the ball all the way down to about the 2-yard line, Drew. Okay. Second biggest moment of the ball game, I thought, was Albany State's ability to force a field goal when really Benedict probably could have punched in another touchdown, and had they punched in another touchdown, I think they would have sapped all life out of Albany State, but it was actually a win that they forced a field goal.
Well, Brian, let's back it up. After the defense had the chance to rest early in the 2nd quarter, Albany State outscored Benedict for the remainder of the game 20-10. So that's how important that long drive, despite the fact that they came away with no points, was, because that made it a competitive ball game. And Brian, I got to throw my inner Dr. Cavill out on this one. the Benedict Band of Distinction won the halftime too, everybody.
Ooh. Yeah, that is a good sounding band. I think they did win the halftime. A little bit I was paying attention and watching. I know they sounded real good in terms of in the stands. So might have even won the fifth quarter too. From
I think they did win the fifth quarter from as much of it as I was able to watch.
Right.
There was no zero quarter though.
Yeah. We talked we talked about this game. Let's see. Albany State did have the ball to start the second half. The big play that actually woke everybody up happened with 12, probably right about the first couple of minutes of the ball game, where Deontay Bono and Rashad Jordan hooked up for a 93-yard play. It was just a quick little pass into the flat near the sideline, and Jordan made just one guy miss, and then he was running up the sideline. Outran two guys, I believe. He was gone. And that was the first moment that Albany State's crowd got into the contest. Wouldn't you say? Correct. At that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the loudest that you heard the stadium all day.
It was. So you had a 3-point ball game at that point in time. A little bit later, Benedict came down again in the third quarter. Benedict pushed it. I think those moments, and this is what you talk about, a championship mindset, and why Benedict is really going to be an interesting team to pay attention down the stretch and in the SIC championship, assuming things continue. They control their own destiny at this point, and even potentially playoffs. They're solid. They really are a solid team. I mean, they average probably 30-something, 35 a game. Defensively, I think they are number 3 in the nation in terms of scoring defense, only allowing 10 points per game. They're number 5 in total defensive yards, allowing just 227. I know that's in the nation. Number 3 in scoring in the nation, number 5 in total defense. And Benedict, I mean, look, Drew, they just can press. I'm a believer. Not that I wasn't, but I'm sure enough a believer now.
Yeah, Benedict has one Achilles heel, and it's their kicking game. That's both punting and field goal. That
you still own that.
Yes, that would be the difference. Their punting was atrocious this past Saturday, which allowed Albany State to get back. Yes, go back and look at it.
I'm gonna look at the stats. Go ahead.
Think about it. The shank punt allowed Albany State to get back into the game. There was another punt, I believe. There was another short punt when Albany State took the ball around midfield and was able to score another one of their touchdowns. That was the difference. The field goal that they hit was essentially a PAT. And we were up in the booth, if you remember. We were all wondering if that went wide right. Because it was wide right from our angle, but the referees put their hands up. So we're going to trust the referees' judgment on that. But that, honestly, that is the only weakness that I see with this Benedict team. I thought Albany State, it kept Albany State around. So my question is, when they get to the playoffs, will that be what ultimately can cost them a serious run at an NCAA championship? Because other than that, I believe they have every piece in place to make a deep playoff run.
Hey, one of the, I was taking a look at the punting stats. Eubanks 5 punts, averaging 28.6. I get what you're saying.
That's an average.
We saw him. Yeah, well,
we've seen him. It's either boom or bust. We've seen him at his best.
We saw him.
And I have seen him. I've seen Eubanks 3 games.
Okay.
I've seen 1 game of him at his best. I've seen 2 games of him at not his best.
Names to keep in mind here for Benedict. Keep the name Lubert Danellis. Keep that name in mind. 10 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss in that contest. Added another sack. So I'm sure he's increased his lead now into double digits in terms of sacks on the season. He's making a strong run for SIAC Defensive Player of the Year. And how about the fact, Drew, one final note here before we move over to the other big matchup in the non-D1. Eric Phoenix, 22 of 28, 253 yards. That's passing. 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 15 net yards. He took 21 yards lost, but he had 8 carries, 1 touchdown, so 2 total touchdowns. They have another quarterback, and we have seen them run both quarterbacks, and it's believed that John Lampley is the better passer of the two.
Not yesterday.
Hey, look, if that's the Eric Phoenix that you're going to get, woo, watch out. That's all I'm gonna tell you, because they didn't have to go to the extra to the Lampley to the John Lampley quarterback 2, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? They just did it with what they had. So real impressive win. Uncharted territory. Benedict 7-0 for the first time in school history. What's ahead for Benedict, Drew?
Believe they've got Morehouse this weekend. They travel to Morehouse for homecoming. Let's let that not be a trap game. You know, Benedict has been good at spoiling Morehouses.
Oh my gosh.
Benedict has been good at messing up people's homecoming. So
2-0 so far.
Let's make sure that that they handle what they're supposed to handle, going 3-0 on homecoming. Then they come home for homecoming on the 29th, and I believe that will be against Clark Atlanta. So that would have been what, 4 homecomings in 5 weeks for Benedict? If I have my numbers correct.
Are you counting their own? You're counting their own?
Yes, counting their own. There would be 4 homecomings in 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then they have the cross the street rival. It's not even a cross town rival. It's a cross the street rival when they play Allen for the last game of the season. So it's all what Benedict's lose. Look, Benedict is up 2 games with 1 to go. Albany State and Fort Valley still have to play each other. So one of those teams will eliminate the other one from contention. Just the fact that those 2 still have a head-to-head matchup. But all is not lost here in the state of Georgia, because both Albany State and Fort Valley should be ranked or just outside of the top 7, which you need to get into the playoffs when the rankings come out after next weekend, assuming that both teams win, which will mean the Fountain City Classic on November 5th may determine if the SIAC is able to get a second team into the D2 playoffs. And there's a very realistic shot for the SIAC team to get the second team in. But I'm going to say this, Commissioner Holloman, Commissioner, why am I drawing a blank? CIAA Commissioner.
Williams.
Yeah, Commissioner Williams. You all need to figure out somehow the Friday night before the CIAA championship game and the SIAC championship game, the winner of the Fountain City Classic needs to play potentially Bowie State. If Bowie State does not come back against Union in a game that could help either one of these 2 teams get into the playoffs.
Okay.
That's a free to both the commissioners.
Pro tip from AD Drew here. Let's hey, real quick before we go to break, let's make sure we set again. Albany State has Savannah State. They travel to Savannah State next week, and then of course they host Morehouse, and then of course is that Fountain City Classic against Fort Valley State. Fort Valley State,
Columbus, Georgia.
Columbus, Georgia. Fort Valley State got a 56-28 win over Morehouse, so they continue to win. And as you said, we've got Benedict unbeaten. You've got Fort Valley with a loss, Albany State with a loss. In terms of not only just in Division II, but also in the standings. So it'll be interesting to see how and if everything comes to fruition like you expected. But more importantly, nobody can stumble. I mean, Albany State's season is not over. I know there was a lot of disappointed people, but the season is not over. And I think they have to keep that in mind. And I know Coach Gabe Gardenia is going to keep that in focus and perspective for them, because as good as Albany
Who does
State
Fort Valley
is,
have? I was going to say, who
this
does
upcoming week.
Fort Valley have? No, I know they've got. Go ahead. The next 2 weeks.
Well, I was going to say Clark. They've got Clark, and then Savannah State. So Savannah State is now that team that could play a key role in what happens, because Savannah State actually hosts Albany State and Fort Valley State. So Savannah State is now in play to be a bit of a spoiler in the next 2 weeks. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Let's take a break. When we come back from the break, the number one team had to travel and do something that has not been done in a long time up in Maryland. We'll talk about that contest, and they needed some extra time to do it. We'll talk about that game in the CIAA and more on the other side of the break. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment. This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
It's like a loot machine. Going around town, people trying to get down.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Okay, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford, AD Drew, or I should say over there. That's AD Drew. Hey, appreciate everybody joining us on YouTube chat. Just bumping around, seeing who's already in there. Tamara T, first one in the chat room. Followed up, Mary 305. Jeff Roberts, Israel Carey, JSU in the building. Yeah, we'll get to talking about them in just a second. David Garner, Southbound 3000. Oh, my good friend EA, coming in, ready to clean up. Yeah. We'll talk
How
about
you like a lemon pepper, Brian?
Yeah, you know
Lemon
what? I'm
pepper?
not a lemon pepper guy. I'm not. It depends on where it comes from. I'm just not diehard. I'm more of a Louisiana Cajun dry rub kind of guy, you know. So
Okay.
yeah, I got to talk to EA and see what restaurant I can get my wings from. We'll talk about
Buffaloes,
that.
man. Buffaloes.
Buffaloes, you know, if look, hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna do a top.
Wingstop. Buffaloes or Wingstop?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give you a place. Now I know every place doesn't have a Smoky Bones, but
Yeah, oh, Smoky Bones
if
is decent.
if you have a Smoky Bones in your neighborhood, in your area, I'm telling you, Drew, the Memphis dry rub, woo, whoa! I'm telling you. Look, don't get me started, Drew. I'm gonna have to save that for another segment. Another segment, you know, Dr. B's top 5 wing
Wing takeout
stops,
places.
wing stops. See how I did that? Wing stops. See how I did that right? Okay.
We're gonna be like this.
Yeah. Good. Hey, all right. So again, the non D1, the Division II level was on point this past weekend, as the other big game was a CIAA matchup, and the number 1 ranked team. I think consensus. I think it's safe to say, Drew, when you say consensus, pretty much in everybody's anybody who has a split non D1, D2, whatever, or versus D1, you've got Virginia Union, the Panthers, unbeaten, traveling to Bowie State, taking on the defending champs, who have one loss in conference play. They lost to Shaw by 3 points, so they're hosting Union, and they have owned this series in Bowie. I mean, they have owned the North for pretty much the last 5-6 years. You know, especially the last 3 years, the last 3 seasons. Obviously, there was a season or two in there where you had Virginia State and some other folks. Maybe who else is in the North? Shawan? No, Union.
But I don't think
So
Shawan's never won it.
yeah, no, they've played. They've had
spoiler.
some competitive teams. They played spoiler alert a little bit. So look, this one, Virginia Union go up to Bowie, Maryland, and look, it hurt my heart that we couldn't watch this game live, because obviously we were in Albany, but this one lived up to the hype, as Virginia Union would get a 27-24 win in overtime, as it took I guess a great defensive stop by Virginia Union's defense, a goal line stop, and then a 42-yard field goal in overtime
What was that
to
again,
propel
Brian?
Virginia Union.
What was
Huh?
that won the game? What'd you say won the game?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a 42-yard
What was
field
that number
goal.
again? 42.
4-2. That means the ball was
Field
at
goal.
let me see. The ball was
Ball
at
had to be
pretty
about
much
the
the
24 or
25.
25. 24 or 25 yard line.
25-yard line. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what it took to get the game won for Virginia Union.
Nice to have one of
And
those.
it did. And all this happened on the back of Jada Byers, another big night. Virginia Union's running back also has to be considered a Harlan Hill Trophy candidate, which the Harlan Hill is the Heisman
D2.
for the Division II
D2
level.
Heisman.
The D2 Heisman, 30 rushes, 277 yards, and a touchdown. Drew, this was the first time that Bowie State has lost at home since the start of the 2016 season.
Is
I
that
know
at
we've
home or
talked
home
about that
conference?
before. Home. Well, hold on. At home to start the season, 2016. It's their first home conference loss since 2014. So again, 2016, first loss period at home. 2014 was the last time they lost a home game in conference. So, I mean, we're talking 6 years, 8 years, dominant record by Bowie State at home. Virginia Union, who, look, they went on the road and knocked off the number 2 team in the country. And I told you, look, when we talked to Dr. Parker, we knew that their toughest games were all on the road. I mean, they play this game was on the road when they had to play Virginia State at the end of the year. Fayetteville, yeah, that's right. They did. They beat Fayetteville State earlier in the year on the road. And now, so this is 3 road wins. That's 3 road, and I think the Virginia State game is on the road too, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. The only reprieve they get is Shawan at home.
Right. Talk a little bit about, Drew, the statistics, because we were talking as we were doing the prep on this about some numbers and where Jada Byers and what he's doing, which is just extraordinary, or is it extraordinary? I guess is a better way of saying that.
Well, I looked this up today earlier when we were on the Dr. Cavill's morning show inside the HB Sports Lab, extra credit edition, Sunday mornings. Make sure you tune into that here on the Black College Sports Network. But anyway, Joshua Sims brought up the fact that Jada Byers is the top running back in all of football.
What do you mean
college football?
All. Really?
So.
All.
You know me, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a stat nerd. So we decided to quantify it. Jada Byers, there are only 3 running backs through week 7 who have gained 1,000 yards in college football. All 3 of those are on the Division II level. Now, when I say in college football, I am talking all 4 levels of NCAA and NAIA. That's FCS, FBS, Division II, Division III, and NAIA. Only 3 running backs on all 5 levels. That's almost 900 schools.
Stop for a second. Think about that.
800. Because you get into the 900s when you add the JUCOs in there. But there are almost 800 schools.
Stop for a second. Just think about that. Where we are in the game of football, that at this point, and look, to get to 1,000 through 7 games, we're talking probably averaging 120 a game, maybe 100, anywhere between 120 and 150 a game to get to 1,000. Shouldn't be, but just think 3 out of 800. Something. But go ahead, Drew. Go ahead. I just want to stop right there and let that sink in for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, so out of all of college football, there are only 3 backs with 1,000 yards. Jada Byers is one of those 3. So in that class of 3, Brian, Jada Byers with his 1,300 and was it 1384, I believe is the number?
1373.
1373 is 190 yards clear of number 2. Let's put that into perspective. He could sit a game out right now and still probably be leading the nation in rushing. That's how far ahead of the competition Jada Byers is. So to say he is the best running back in all of football right now, that was a very accurate statement by our colleague Joshua Sims.
Yeah,
and he ran for 277 this past Saturday. Almost. And
he also leads the nation, especially at the D2 level. Now, I didn't go check every other level like you and Joshua did, but he has 14 rushing touchdowns on the year. He
890 NCAA teams, Brian. I'm sorry. 890 NCAA teams. No. Yeah. Check that. There are 890 football teams currently. NCAA, NAIA, and junior college. Okay. 890.
Yeah, so Byers has 14 rushing touchdowns, leading the nation in that category. 175 rushing attempts, which is pretty high. I mean, obviously, he just toted the rock 30 times in his past game, but 175 rushing attempts in 7 games, that leads the nation. Of course, Virginia Union is the #1 scoring offense in D2, averaging 48.6 a game. And I'll tell you what, I know the folks at Virginia Union, I know they watch our show. Hey, you guys need to start putting the promotional materials together and send them to everywhere. You have the best running back in the nation, and that's Jada Byers. And look, I know the season's not over, Drew, but my man is killing it. I mean, the numbers and the opportunities. I mean, and that speaks to his offensive line, right? Might be, you can easily say, best offensive line in the nation, backed up by a guy who is what year is Jay? You know what? I didn't even know what year Byers is. You know what his classification is?
No, I do not. But you also want to give a shout out to his defense also, Brian, because the defense has to keep other teams away where they're not forced to get into the passing game, but they can still use Jada Byers as a prominent portion of the offense. Jada Byers is a sophomore. But we all know right now with everything, is he a true sophomore, or a sophomore on the field and a junior in the class, COVID sophomore, redshirt sophomore? We still got a couple more years where we got to deal with all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just by looking at Union's website, his freshman year was last year. So, I mean, talk about a find out of St. Joseph's High School, best running back in the nation. And, I'm going to tell you now, you folks in Virginia Union, whoever's got the NIL set up, man, you guys get on the ball. Jada Byers is that dude, and the postseason awards will be coming. And look, this is a fun team to watch, and he just does so many things. What does this do to the mix there? Obviously, this is a big win for Union, ranked number 11 in the nation. What is it? What's their standing looking like in the rankings, the regional rankings? And before we talk about the regional rankings, let's bring it back to the CIAA North for a second.
And the CIAA North, I mean, they are essentially 2 games clear of everybody in the CIAA North, because they are 5-0. Shawan is 4-1, which they have the head-to-head matchup with Shawan in 2 weeks. If Bowie should beat Shawan, that will mean when Shawan and Virginia Union play on the 29th, the CIAA North could be decided right then and there. Brian, I'm going to take this one step further. In all of these races, first of all, the CIAA South is pretty much settled. Fayetteville is 4-1 in the CIAA. They are 2 games up with 3 games to go. They own the tiebreaker against Shaw. So Shaw is already eliminated.
Yeah, Shaw, man. How bad is that?
Have they played Johnson C and Winston-Salem yet? Fayetteville.
You're gonna make me go look. No, I don't know. To be honest with you, I know. Let's see. Winston-Salem. No.
This prepared. Neither one.
Yeah, I didn't think you were gonna go. I didn't think you were gonna go deep diving into the CIAA South.
I wasn't until I looked at it.
I was trying to keep us into the North. I was trying to keep us in the North. Look, here's what we know about the North, right? Okay, let me see if I can summarize the North while you look up the stuff in the South. Okay. Shawan, 43-40 over Virginia State. Bit of a shocker, but a big win. I mean, there was a 3-way tie going into the North Division in second place. Now Shawan sits in second place all by themselves. Virginia State now has 2 losses on their belt. Tough for them. I mean, obviously having already lost to Bowie and now to Shawan. and now that kind of moves them. And then of course the Bowie loss drops them into third. Now Shawan sits in second place, and this upcoming week you've got Shawan at Bowie State. Bowie State looking to start another streak. If Shawan beats Bowie State, it sets up Shawan with one loss against Union in 2 weeks. That could be the separator to decide, that Union has it. Now, what if Bowie State wins? Now, Bowie State wins, and there's clearly 2 games separating Virginia Union from Shawan State and Bowie, and it's pretty much going, walking into those final 2 games for Virginia Union.
2 to get 1. And they have 2 to get 1.
They need 2. They just got to win one of the final 2, and they're in the CIAA. And they are at Lincoln, PA this upcoming Saturday. Did you figure out the South yet?
Yeah. Fayetteville has Johnson C, Shaw, and Winston-Salem to finish out the season. But here's what's interesting about this. Shaw and Winston-Salem play this Saturday at the same time that Fayetteville plays Johnson C. So if Fayetteville beats Johnson C, they're one step closer. Winston-Salem, Shaw, that's an elimination game. One of those 2 teams will eliminate each other.
They're not eliminated already. The fact that they're not already eliminated is amazing.
Mathematically, they will mathematically eliminate each other.
Okay.
No, check that. I'm sorry. Winston-Salem is out of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're 1-3. They just got their first win over Shaw this past Saturday,
it's Johnson C
17-10.
It's Johnson C and Shaw. It's Johnson C and Shaw, and they are up 2 games in the loss column. So, a defeat by Johnson C, and if Winston-Salem should beat Shaw, the CIAA South is over.
Yeah.
On October 22nd, the CIAA South could be over.
And if you're Johnson C. Smith, you got to be kicking yourself. Losing to St. Aug, who just got their first win. So, I mean, I guess we'll take a second to say congrats to Winston-Salem and St. Aug for getting their first wins. St. Aug with a 28-25 win over Johnson C. Smith. I feel like, was it Johnson C. who did the video about getting a win? Was that who did that video?
I didn't see it.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. Somebody's coach got fit talking about getting their first win, and then things haven't gone right. I don't know if that was Johnson C. or not, but anyway, Johnson C. Smith had an opportunity to move into pretty much controlling or having an opportunity to do something really special with a win over a St. Aug team that probably they should have won. That's a tough loss. Johnson C. Smith had a 2-game winning streak apparently, and so that's out the window for them. Anything else in the CIAA you want to hit on before we move
but
off
I do have a SAC game I want to get on next before we go to break, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead, because I know we were going to talk about Langston here for a second, who was the other previously unbeaten team. So let's jump back. What did you want to get to about in the SIC?
Okay, I'm going to read a stat line to you, Brian, and I need you to tell me whether this team won or lost their game.
Okay.
31 total first downs compared to 30.
Okay.
This team had 211 rushing yards, 501 passing yards, for a total of 712 total yards of offense, put up 34 points.
Team A.
Did you win or lose? Did you win or lose that game? Without even looking at Team B.
Team A put up 700 yards, 500 passing. How many first downs again?
31 first downs. Red zone efficiency third down conversions of 7 of 14.
That's good, 50%.
Yeah, 50%.
You're supposed to win that. You're supposed to win that. You're
34
supposed to win that game. Yeah,
34
you're
points.
34 points. I mean, unless your defense is hot garbage and you turn the ball over 5 times on your own on their
Two
on your own
turnovers.
2-yard line.
Two turnovers to
Were
one.
those turnovers pick sixes and scooping scores?
No pick sixes, no scooping scores.
Okay.
Just regular
Team
turnover.
A was supposed to win. Team A should win. Team A should win that every
I'm
day of
sorry.
the week.
You had 3 turnovers. You were -1 on turnovers. You
Changing
had 3. The other team had 2. No, the other team had 2.
Okay.
You had 3. So you were -1.
Yeah, but you still had 700 yards of offense. I mean, unless you gave up 800 yards? I mean, Jesus. I mean, you're supposed to win that game.
Okay. Team B, 30 first downs, 434 yards of rushing, 106 yards passing, total of 540 yards of offense.
That's less than 700.
Team B was 4 of 11 on third downs.
Not good.
Yes.
That's less than 50%.
But Team B was 5 of 6 in red zone.
Ooh.
Held the ball for 33 minutes and 13 seconds compared to Team A's 26 minutes and 42 seconds.
Uh-oh. Are you going to tell me that Team A
who had 700 yards of offense, lost by 14.
Oh, wow. You lose by 14 with those kind of stats?
With 700 yards of offense.
Goodness.
And the game that we are talking about, everybody, is Tuskegee versus Central State.
Oh, my gosh. Where is Jamie Walker at?
49-34. Jamie Walker, please text me and tell me how the heck did this happen? I started watching part of it on my way home yesterday from Albany State and got distracted when I got to the house and did not finish watching the game on ESPN Plus. I'm sorry, Jamie. I caught part of it, but I didn't catch the entire thing and haven't had the opportunity to go back and watch the whole game. But Jamie Walker, I need you to turn in your book report on that game, Jamie Walker.
No, I would have never guessed in a million years we had a top 5 matchup and Jamie Walker would get a game like that and probably have a better. I mean, if you love offense, that was a better game. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're probably scratching your head talking about you had 70 something. Let me do the math. That's almost 80 points. Yeah, that's yeah, my goodness. Well, congrats to Tuskegee on that one, man.
Some of the individual stat lines, Brian, for Tuskegee. Tareen Taylor rushed for 234 yards in that game. Excuse me, 232 yards.
Yeah.
But, Brian, when your teammate, Dante Edwards, runs for $142.
Well, you did say they ran for 400 something yards as a team, right?
434.
Goodness gracious.
Now, look at these receiving yards for Central State.
Hold on, stop for a second.
Right.
Oh, go ahead. Finish up.
Michael Lowe, 8 receptions, 185 yards. Brandon Brock, 11 receptions, 162 yards. Twan Hines, 5 catches, 112 yards. Between them, they had 4 touchdowns.
Hey, Drew, help me figure this out. This is the offensive production the last 4 games by Tuskegee. 49, 31, 45, and 35. I mean, defensive. I mean, that's total points.
Yeah.
Last 4 weeks. Now
Give me those numbers again.
49, 31, 45, and 35. And now defensively, I can't say that they turned the faucet off completely because they did give up some points on the other side. But the fact that you're putting up that kind of offensive production, look, Tuskegee, very dangerous team in the West. Very dangerous team in the West.
And the West will be decided over the next 2 weeks because Kentucky State and Tuskegee control their own destiny in the West. Kentucky State has Lane this weekend, and Tuskegee has Lane this weekend. Kentucky State has Miles this weekend. Should those two win their games this weekend, the head-to-head matchup on the 29th, we'll determine who wins the SIAC West.
Look, well, hey, as much as I like the fact that Tuskegee has now won 5 games in a row after starting 0-2, sounds like another team that you went to school.
Would that be Florida A&M?
At, Drew. Would be starting out 0-2 and winning 5 in a row. These next 2 weeks will be real interesting for Tuskegee as they travel to Lane, travel to State, and essentially that's going to be how they win the West.
Yeah,
but. Now they've beaten up on, now again, these last 4 weeks, Allen, Clark, Morehouse, Central State.
They beat up on teams they were supposed to beat up.
Yes, they have. That's what I was going to say.
I'm just saying, I'm just being real.
No, you're right. There's no shade in that. It's just, look, they beaten up on the teams that they should have. Now let's just see.
Now they got beat to the schedule.
Over. Yeah, I want to make a quick mention before we go to the break. The other undefeated team previously going into the weekend was Langston. The Langston Lions were traveling in a top 20 matchup with a conference rival, Texas Wesleyan. And unfortunately for Langston, Texas Wesleyan jumped on them from the opening kickoff, literally. An 84-yard opening kickoff return got the scoring going. Then on the next drive, Langston had a punt blocked, which yielded a field goal. Texas Wesleyan scored 2 more times. Next minute, it was 26-0 at the end of the first quarter. Texas Wesleyan ended up winning 53-28. And so it does put a loss on the conference record. Texas Wesleyan also has 1 loss in conference. Now, what's interesting for Langston, though, Langston this upcoming week, let's see, Langston was ranked number 20 in NAIA. Texas Wesleyan was ranked 19th. They take on Ottawa University of Arizona this week. They are ranked number 14. So this is Langston's opportunity to sort of rebound, to go from, yes, a bad loss, but you got a chance to get a win against a higher ranked opponent. So great opportunity here for Langston if they can take out Ottawa University, Arizona this upcoming week and reestablish their chances of winning the Sooner Athletic Conference and getting to the NAIA. Okay, Drew, let's take a break. Come back. We're going to talk to Kelvin Carter, get into talking about the past 24, 48 hours in the SWAC and in the MEAC. Big contest out on the Bluff in Southern University between his Alcorn State Braves and the Southern University Jaguars. We'll talk to Kelvin, have him on here on the other side. And we got mid-season reports to give out too. So we still got a lot to do, Drew, and just a little bit of time to do it. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course your Buick Park.
Buick that fits your life. Because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working.
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders scalp shield, never not working.
We're all about feeding your family with meat and plant-based protein that's good for the planet, good for you, and just plain good. That's all the protein you need, all on your plate.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, The Pregame Show, The Carlos Brown Show, The ONG, Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language. And she really loves her grandson. Like really loves.
Nope.
All right. Hello. I guess we're back. Welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford, AD Drew. Drew, I don't know. Something going on in the background. Get me out of there so I can see everybody here. Because I'm still in the background. All right, there we go. Beautiful. Okay. Ready to go. Let's do it live. Yeah, exactly. Let's do it live. Bryan and AD here, joined by Kelvin Carter. Kelvin, how you doing this evening?
Hey, doing great, guys. Couldn't ask for a better weekend. Great weather here in St. Louis. So, without a classic, of course, but it always.
Well,
yeah,
we should be at the Dome, my brother, and I should have flown in this morning and should be looking to fly out tomorrow morning. But we're gonna save that for a little bit later on in the conversation.
Yeah, I heard something about that. Yeah, I heard there was some sort of thing that was supposed to happen there. But anyway, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But we got to talk about this big matchup in the SWAC West between Southern and Alcorn. Of course, Alcorn was sitting on top of the West Division unbeaten. Southern had won, 2 in a row in dominating fashion, actually, leading, I think, 2 or 3, maybe two, had won 2. And all of a sudden, the people who had jumped off a bridge were swimming, climbing themselves back up on top of the bridge. And Southern fans were feeling real good after the last couple of weeks. And
not hard to find a
great
bridge
ball
when you're
game.
in New Orleans, Brian.
Huh?
Not hard to find a bridge in New Orleans. I mean, in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Right there on the Mississippi.
Look, hey,
not too hard.
Southern hosted this contest. Really, you had the most of the production in the first offensive production, really in the first half. Southern jumped out to a 14-0 lead into the early parts of the second quarter before Alcorn answered. Southern retook a lead with about 5:21 to go to take a 21-7 lead on a pass from Bashawn McCray. Alcorn did a great job of answering with about 1:33 left. So you had 35 points in the first half. And so Kelvin, how do you look at and analyze what you saw from the first half? 26,900 in attendance. Great crowd there at Southern University at A.W. Mumford.
Yeah, really good showing by the Braves in terms of certain mechanics, but with the offense, Southern scored first, of course, at 7, and then both teams scored 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, and then both scoreless in the third, and then Alcorn came up with what was a field goal in the fourth quarter. What I saw was what I alluded to earlier in one of our earlier broadcasts around not being able to get the ball vertical. We were able to do what we desired to do in terms of, running the football, which we did well. Those are the things that, we hang our hats on, being able to run the football. But we just were not able to put together, the string of the consistency around the play call. And I think that's something that we have to address coming into homecoming next week. And we got Texas Southern. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup.
as you look at this, I kind of consider this, uh, two of the top three teams in the West. I think that's, with respect to
Prairie View.
Texas Southern. Well, Prairie View being the third.
Yeah.
This sort of matched up and looked like a heavyweight fight. And I hate to use that pun, giving what happened with Southern. And let me ask that point to you, Kelvin. Are you disappointed to some degree that the SWAC did not make a decision to rule on the pregame incident involving Southern and Prairie View? Because literally there should be probably a dozen Southern players that should be suspended at least a game.
Well, I think with that though, the SWAC office had to do their due diligence. I believe if it would have happened with players in uniform, then it would have been a better outcome. I mean, a more swift action. But the SWAC office actually gave them the opportunity to what we call self-discipline on this component. So, but as they begin to look into it, so I feel like 2-1, Southern's 3-1. If there's going to be a decision, it's going to have adverse ramifications down the line. So we'll still be able to see what could have happened. I'm glad we played Southern at full force to see what we were, where we stood in the whole deal. So I'm still looking forward to the way that this plays out because we still have Prairie View and it's going to be interesting. I still say, and I'll hold to it, that on November 19th, we'll potentially beat those guys from 1400 Lynch Street and be set up for a back-to-back matchup for the SWAC championship.
Okay. Drew, let me finish short of this. Just a quick recap here. Obviously, there wasn't much in terms of way of scoring in the second half. Southern's defense only gave up a field goal. Alcorn didn't give up any points, so we'll qualify the second half as a defensive battle. How would you categorize what you saw in the second half, Kelvin?
A lot of inconsistency, especially from the Braves, especially from the play calling, not getting a good rhythm, not getting the guys off, getting the team off balance. And what I saw in Valley, and I will say this, Valley does a tremendous job in the scenario with the cards that they're dealt. But I have not seen that consistency from our offensive side of the ball. And our quarterback, struggled a little bit throwing the vertical routes. But as we begin to get stronger with running the football, I believe that this is going to come down to, especially as it gets colder, and it doesn't get cold till late, where we'll be able to see the Braves. If we can get our play calling, or if Alcorn can get their play calling adjusted, I think that will put us in a scenario to where we can truly show who we are. Running the ball is not our issue. We got a guy that's really is a really great, addition to the Braves camp. But I just think that what I saw out of them was a staunch defense against Southern. And if we had to play them again, which we don't, I believe that would be a scenario where we could prevail. But this was not a blowout by any means. I mean, like you said, 3 point, we didn't give up any points. So the defense made a great adjustment too, to kind of slow down Southern, but offensively, the play calling, the inability to sustain drives, that's really where we got caught in the second half.
Yeah, Alcorn had a 14-play drive that ended in a missed field goal. Did come back on the next drive with a 12-play, 67-yard drive, and did end up with a field goal. So, I guess those are those opportunities when you look at it, that's as close as Alcorn really got to scoring against Alcorn,
Right.
and came away with 3 points. So credit to Southern's D. They stepped up when they had to. When I was just looking at here at the total numbers, when you look at the total yardage, it was, 370 for Southern, 325 for Alcorn. Time of possession 30. I think Alcorn had the time of possession 33:02 to 26:58. and that's both teams had an interception. So I mean, you just had a classic, very similar, Drew, to kind of what we had over there in Albany State. You had a top matchup between two very good teams, missed opportunities here and there, and it just kind of hurts you. I mean, even though Southern committed 10 penalties, didn't come back to bite them in the tail. So
Yeah,
it'll be
10
interesting.
penalties for
And
100
Bryan,
yards.
I was gonna say, Bryan, isn't it great that the 3 games that everyone pretty much tabbed as the game of the week in HBCU football actually lived up to the hype? No matter which side of it that your team came on, all 3 games lived up to it. Southern Alcorn, Albany State, Benedict, and Virginia Union, Bowie State. All 3 of them lived up to the bill.
All within a touchdown, all within 6 points. So yeah, exactly. They all lived up to the hype. So that's why I said that this was the first really good weekend of college football, and I say that just in general. I think we had some exciting games, not only at our level, but in both D2 FCS, but even when you go up to FBS, you had some exciting games up there, and so you're starting to see the pressure cooker get turned on for a lot of teams. Let's quickly move through the SWAC, and then we'll kind of bring them to the game that was postponed from St. Louis to Pine Bluff, and that took place today. I try to pull up see if I can quickly find
Yeah, it
my
was 30, 34,
recap here.
31. Yeah, 34-31. It looked pretty even. The rushing attack was,
Are you
234
talking
to
about
294.
hold on.
Alabama.
Which one are you referring to? Okay, hold on. Let's the rest of Saturdays, because no one's going to want to talk about that once we get into all the stuff that went surrounding with that. So yeah, quick. Alabama State 24-9 over Valley. FAMU 20-16 over Grambling. Drew, I didn't even know this.
Stop right there.
Yeah.
Stop right there.
Yeah,
FAMU should have lost that game. Yes. FAMU should have lost that game. Grambling's last drive against Florida A&M should have. I was scared. I was watching. I had it on in the car. I'm not supposed to say that, but I had it on the phone in the car while we were driving to the restaurant that we were driving to. Ironically, to meet you over at the restaurant, but the OPI that they called against Grambling, I don't remember who the receiver was a questionable call. As a Rattler, I am happy that the referee threw the flag, but as an official, it was 50-50 at best. And usually, unless it's egregious and you definitely see the separation and the push off, they tell you to swallow your flag, especially at that point in the game, because you don't want the game to be turned on an official's call. You want the players to make plays. So, but that last drive was kind of back and forth, penalties and mistakes by Grambling. Then Grambling get back up, then FAMU commit a super penalty. So it was a very interesting drive, and with FAMU had the opportunity to run out the clock, and they just could not.
Yeah, you mentioned penalties. That's all I can think of when I think about that game. Penalties and special teams. Again, FAMU probably. And I got to go check into this. I'll probably look into this for Wednesday. I feel like they're setting records right now for penalties. 14 for 172 this past weekend. That follows up the 15 for 151 against South Carolina State. Very uncharacteristic for a Willie Simmons team, but
and the penalties that Florida, I would say that the penalties that Florida A&M was committing were first down penalties. And what I mean by that, on third down, when the defense has done something, the defense would commit a penalty that would give Grambling a first down, or vice versa. When the offense has made a big play that has garnered them a first down, then you would have a hold or something else that would nullify that first down, and then the drive would stop on offense.
Yeah, I don't. There's more that we'll get into talking about that game. You guys, anybody watching us, make sure to come check us on Wednesday night. ONG Strike Zone, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll talk about this Grambling game. But FAMU survived, and they won their 5th consecutive game. I didn't even know Grambling had the G's back on their helmet. You said that. I'm so used to not seeing them, I didn't even see them. But you said they were on the helmets, though.
They were on
sure
the
about
helmets.
that. Okay.
Yes,
All
I saw
right.
them.
Well,
I watched the replay today on the Griot.
That's good. It was their first home game, so I think I'd be willing to bet that Hugh got some calls from a few people who are like, come on, Hugh, let the guys put the sticker on. It's the first home game of the year. You know, do right. Do right by these kids because that whole not putting them on was the dumbest anyway. So let me see. What else did we have in the SWAC from Saturday? Oh, yeah. This little game that happened over in Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah. Jackson State rolled in and taking on Bethune-Cookman, who had to move the game from out of Daytona Beach because of Bike Week that's happening, Bike Weekend, Biketoberfest, but then because of Hurricane Ian and what it's displaced and shut down the campus, so they had to play this game in Jacksonville. 22,373. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Chicken wing dinner.
Literally.
Winner, winner.
Literally.
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you, EA, for owning up. As we covered, I covered by about 5,000 people, I think, Drew. Because I think you said 17,000. So, but that was the only thing that was won by a Floridian, as Jackson State controlled that doggone game. Ran 39-0 lead. Shador Sanders doing what he does. I think I wrote it down. 5 touchdown passes. He did throw 2 interceptions. As Jackson State held Bethune to 166 total yards, 7 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. While we were looking up stats, and I'll say this and get out of the way. Anybody want to comment on it? Jackson State's defense, just in case you want to say, hey, how dominant is this defense? Well, the number 1 in scoring defense, 9.5. They're number 1 in third down conversion efficiency, 0.212. They're number 1 in first downs allowed, just 68 total. This is a team that has played 6 games. So you're talking, 11 first downs a game is all they're giving up on average. Number 1 in total defensive yards. This is the crazy stat. 180.8 yards per game allowed. That is 60 yards difference between the number 2 team in total defense yards per game. I've heard Neely on the pregame show talk about let's see, pay attention. There's and Drew, I know you do producing. Which defensive year does he talk and compare this defense to? It's like 1970 something. Do you recall? No. Did I lose you? Yeah, there's one of those years that Neely on the pregame show always talks about. And so, you have your heads. Anyway, why am I'm talking, Kelvin? I'm just talking to hear myself talk. Go ahead, Kelvin. Any thoughts there?
Well, I watched the game, studied it, and I'll tell you what I saw was an area that Coach Prime said that he was going to address. And these announcers were really good on this game. That state offense averages right around, they're about 60-40. And this is the first time that I saw the noticeable difference between that front line and, looking at Bethune-Cookman. And when they talked about the disparities in that. And then also, too, you must remember that defense is leveraged and loaded with some really good points first. And the kid Aubrey Miller is from Germantown, right outside of Memphis, but he was originally a University of Missouri signee, as well as he's got a Florida State kid that's coming in that's about to play Shiloh on Saturday. You're doing what you need to do by having these type players on the field for you. And I'll be honest with you, they're pinning their ears back. They're loading the box. They're not allowing you an opportunity. The pressure was so heavy on the former Jackson State quarterback. It was unbelievable. So the fact that they managed to get 175 yards, 180 yards was even amazing based upon what I watched.
Yeah. Drew, you didn't happen to hear what I was saying, did you? About the Jackson State defense that Neely's always comparing this team to?
I did, but I didn't.
Okay. Do you recall which year it was that he was referring to?
It was a year in the 80s. I don't remember which year it was off the top of my head, but it was an 80-something defense that they compared them to.
All right. Well, I told you after 2 weeks that this is a historic defense. I already called that. I didn't even have to see all the stats and compare it to anything else. I just saw what they did, and then I saw what they did to FAMU, us, and then I saw what they did the next week, Tennessee State, and I was like, yo, these cats are different, and they weren't even at full strength then. They're just now getting guys back healthy. Absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, great challenges upcoming. So, put the chin straps on Southern, Alcorn, and whoever else they got coming up, because those are going to be some exciting games. All right, let's talk about the fiasco in St. Louis, Missouri. Alabama A&M was scheduled to play UAPB in your guys' hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. Then we get word. When did that word come out? Was it Thursday night or morning?
That would be Wednesday, Brian. That would be 3 days after I purchased my plane ticket.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and I mean, funny, not funny. I hate it for you, Drew, because we set and we've talked for the last month about whether this game was going to actually happen. There were so many slow-moving parts that I was like, I don't know if you should be taking a chance, Drew. But okay, you want to go ahead. But yeah, so where do we start? Where do we begin? Obviously, a lot of people will look to blame the promoter. Initially, the promoter tried to come out and say some things regarding what he or what they weren't allowed to do from the city perspective. Then you also had, and then quickly the city jumped out and said, "Whoa!" And maybe not the city, but the folks from the dome, they jumped out.
Live St. Louis.
So go ahead, Drew. Jump in there with your thoughts, and then Kelvin, you jump in there.
Well, and I will give out a little bit of background information. First of all, shout out to Bo Carter, WZDX out of Huntsville, Alabama. He was the person who first broke the story back in, I believe that was March when this game was announced by Bo Carter. And in March, April, May, June, July, and into August, the only information that you could find on this game was the video and article that Bo Carter had written. That was clue number one that something was not going right. And the fact that Bo Carter works in Huntsville, covers Alabama A&M, who is the road team in this particular matchup, was putting out more information than the home team, UAPB, and the people in St. Louis and the promoter. That should have put everybody on alert, which it did. Back in, I believe that was either August or September, you may remember when we talked about this, Kelvin. I contacted the people at the Dome when I saw that the game was not even on the master schedule at the Dome, of events at the Dome. If you have an event coming up within the next 90 days that you have been promoting, you would think that the venue that you're having it at would have it on their calendar that they have on the website. But I can understand they may not have updated their calendar. So I actually made a phone call and talked to a live person at the Dome. We don't know what you think. We have nothing on this particular event.
Red flags.
And then
red
I believe that's
red flags.
red flag. And then I believe that's when Kelvin, who still lives in St. Louis and has some contacts in St. Louis that I don't have, contacted one of his people who works at the Dome and said they didn't have anything on their books for this event either. But then about 2 weeks later, we finally get the press release. But you know what was fishy about the press release, Brian? Most times when you have events like this, there's a website that goes along with it. Website didn't come along until about a week after the press release. So people didn't know where to buy tickets from, how to buy tickets, if you wanted a suite, how to purchase a suite. Hell, if you wanted to advertise, how do you advertise or sponsor? None of that stuff was out there. No wonder this was September.
Wow.
6 weeks out. 4 weeks out. No wonder you had poor ticket sales, which I don't believe were as poor as people thought. It may not have been the number that he wanted, but consider that you started your campaign 4 to 6 weeks before the event. Yeah, you're going to have poor ticket sales. And Kelvin can talk about this as far as the St. Louis community. I know there were different organizations that could have been reached out to that would have helped with promoting the event, ticket sales, bringing kids to the event, different corporations that would have gone to the event. So, yeah, there are a lot of this part. The last thing before I turn it back over to Kelvin, from the Black College Sports Network side of it, there was a conversation about us possibly covering the event. I said a conversation, like one conversation, because when we tried to follow up that conversation, as you do with these business ventures, we got no response. I reached back out to the publicist who I had talked to about 3-4 weeks prior, could not get a response. So the red flags were all over the place, and I was stupid enough to still buy a ticket to go in there because I wanted to support an event in my hometown, because we had not had a classic there in probably 5, 6, 7 years, Kelvin, ever since the Gateway Classic went away, when the original promoter of the Gateway Classic passed away. Go ahead, Kelvin.
Well, I think one of the things that I won't call it a red flag, but I did notice there were people that reached out about the Classic to me. They were like, "Hey, you know anything about this?" Because I stay connected to the the sports community. So I reached out to the sports commission, and they said, "We don't know anything about this game." And when I noticed it was an out-of-town promoter. This doesn't make it a bad thing, but in St. Louis, it's knit sports community. It is a football crazed community. And I think a week prior to this, I sent AD the notification that Memphis actually is moving their Memphis-Mizzou game to the same venue because they're going to sell it out. They're going to sell the dome out. And ever since the Rams left, we have this amazing, dome that's sitting there. So one of the things that the promoter did say was they were making an initiative to get black males to the game. So they reached out and they claimed that the promo piece on Ticketmaster is what kind of deterred and or distorted how they were, getting sales. But it was a smart move. On Sundays in St. Louis, Little League football, but the game was going to be an amazing experience. And I will say this, the prime effect makes people in the Midwest, HBCU, I want to go see it. So there were more demographics that wanted to see the band, the football game, and the tailgate than just our demographic. So that's what I was sad about, because I actually came back from Mississippi to meet Drew, and then I texted him and said they canceled it. Otherwise, I would still be in Jackson, which I'm headed back soon because we play homecoming next week. So I just think that we don't need a promoter for these types of events in a city like St. Louis. We have a great sports commission. If they want to put this event on, they have the financing and the backing to be able to put this game on without a middleman. They can reach out to these universities to see if this is what they want to do. And we could use another show at another time to understand the mechanics of the Gateway Classic, which was amazing at the time, but it was just one that one of many classics that were running along with Circle City. That time has phased away. The operationalization piece of this is meant to be in the hands of those that do this all the time.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. That period of time is dead. City Classic did not have a game this year. Between what happened at the Southern Heritage Classic, you don't have the event in Atlanta anymore. I mean, if you're a city now, you mentioned the Sports Commission in St. Louis. Do you feel like they would want to have a game like this? Would they want to reach out to, let's just say it's UAPB and Alabama A&M, for example, or maybe UAPB and Tennessee State, who may be looking for a new kind of classic opportunity? Do you think that is something that they would want in the St. Louis market?
Yes, they would. I mean, based upon our city leadership, we have an African-American female mayor, proud member of Delta Sigma Theta, Hampton graduate. If she looked at it, she would give it to the right person in her administration and say, hey, let's work with the Sports Commission. Let's fill up our hotels. Let's make our downtown a beautiful space. We have the space for it because we have an XFL team, I believe, the St. Louis Battlehawks is here. So the Dome is always ready to go. And unlike other larger venues, they've kind of set it up to the way that they drape the seating off to where it's a great looking environment for about 30,000 fans to come in, view the game, and enjoy St. Louis. There's a reason why the University of Missouri moved their game from Columbia, Missouri to St. Louis to play the Memphis Tigers, because they're going to they might put 75,000 people in the Dome with people coming on a 4-hour drive from Memphis to see the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah. And I was gonna say one other thing I want everybody to understand. When they talk about not making the payments and those things, this event did not have a title sponsor, or from what I was able to see, did not have too many sponsors, not at the level that you would need for that upfront money. And then when you add in the slow ticket sales due to the poor marketing campaign, it's kind of understandable because, folks, I want y'all to understand something. It takes $100,000 plus to move a college football team and their band to another city. When you talk about
for one school,
one school,
right?
Per school,
100,000 for one school. Okay,
yes, per school plus.
So a total of 200,000
minimum
plus.
Minimum. Yes.
Okay, just to be clear.
Yes, and then when you talk about moving the football team, the band, administration, support staff, hotels, buses, bus drivers, meals, etc. Yeah, $100,000 minimum. Why do you think that with these teams, with these guarantees, you see these guarantees at the levels in which you do? Hell, even the Division II teams are gonna spend $70,000 to move their team and their band. That's why they get $100,000 for playing when Lane went to UAPB. I guarantee you they got at least $100,000 for their game. Why? Because 70 of it was going out the window just to support the team. 50 to 70 of it was going out the window. And if you're going that far, you want to be able to make some money also. Now, for an Alabama A&M, it's a bit of a no-brainer because they're going to incur most of that cost anyway, whether they go to St. Louis or whether they go to Pine Bluff to play the game. So the fact that they're able to play their game at a neutral site and get some revenue back on that game is a win for the road team. But for the home team, for us to take that game where we control everything, we get 100% of the profit to move it to a different city. Of course, with 100% of the profit, you have to incur the cost, the stadium costs, especially if you don't own your own stadium like a Bethune-Cookman does, where they lease the stadium. You got to pay parking, you got to pay ticket takers, you got to pay concession people, you got to pay security and all that stuff. So there are costs to having a game at home. So when you get to go to a neutral site, all you have to do is show up, get a check, and play. It can be a benefit and a win for both teams, assuming that the check gonna cash. And that's what the problem was. The two teams did not have confidence that the check was going to cash or even be able to be written.
Right, and I think
I
a
still
good
don't.
example is Morehouse, the Morehouse game in New York. Good backing, good planning, but there's a strong appetite around these things around the country. And to be honest, Jackson could probably host a classic in Mississippi and do a win-win because of that appetite for what's going on across the South. But for New York to have almost 23,000 fans come out to watch, the Morehouse game, that's a really good draw on an event that's just not one of their staple events that's going on there. But at a minimum, you have a situation where somebody understands the audience. You have that type of alumni base. And that is really where we are. St. Louis would have did great with the game. It's just the organizational structure of it was not right.
I'm amazed that the schools would allow it to get to what, less than a week?
4 days. 4 days.
4 days. I always feel like with anything, and I'm like this with projects. And Drew, we've talked about this in the past. There's sort of a timeline, and say, if I don't have A, B, and C in order by this date, there's no way I'm moving forward. I mean, we might as well pull the plug and be okay. Even though you're like, oh, but we really want this to happen and we really want to make it happen. Sometimes you just have to say, by 30 days out, by mid-September, today's the 16th, by September 15th, these schools should have said, if we don't have A, B, and C, whatever feelings they had on Wednesday, they should have pulled the plug back in September. The fact that you're waiting until October, I don't. That's questionable. I don't understand. There's no history, unless I'm wrong here, that precipitated these schools giving an extra 4 weeks up until Wednesday to this promoter, unless
at least by September 30th, we should have had something out there. I would say at a drop
even
dead
that
time.
as your B deadline. You can have an A deadline and a B deadline, whatever. But trust me, with any type of planning, project planning, whatever, if you don't meet the timeline by a certain mark, you got to move forward. You got to cut bait and keep moving. So I hope that as embarrassing as it is, I'm sure, for the city of St. Louis, it's also embarrassing, I'm sure, at some point for the schools. I don't know. They probably, and just the fact that, hey, congrats to UAPB for being able to turn around and make this happen, because I'm sure they had to work wonders to try to rearrange a lot of things to get staffing and people in place on 2 days notice, when people probably already had plans that, oh, I'm off this weekend, oh, I'm out of town, I'm gone. And now, look, we know how that works, Drew. It's like, oh, you're calling me when? On what day? Oh, I got other things I'm doing. I'm out. So,
and Brian, the one thing that we have not talked about are the fans. And I'm not talking about the fans in St. Louis. Yes, the fans in St. Louis are disappointed, Kelvin, that the game did not occur. But what about the fans from out of town that were coming to St. Louis to enjoy the game? What about those group of fans who had bus trips to St. Louis for this game? What about those who had non-refundable hotels that they paid for to come watch this game? What about those like me who had a flight that they paid for and had to pay a cancellation fee because they were there, because they were coming there? What about people who actually took time off and were planning on bringing their kids there? And then let's flip this. What about the vendors in St. Louis? Kelvin, somewhere, the T-shirt man who had them shirts that was going to be setting up down there on Jefferson, around the corner from the stadium on 7th Street. That is, I'll read a PG show. That is upset that he done got all these T-shirts printed and can't sell them for a classic that he got to sell. That he stuck with. What
that
about
send
what
those
about
across
what about the
across the
barbecue
Atlantic
man?
somewhere.
What about the barbecue man who was gonna be sitting down there on Cole Street, who can't sell their barbecue, but he done already ordered all this meat? What about all those people over in the Landon who thought they were gonna get some overtime hours because they knew all those restaurants and everything else were gonna be full?
Well, one of the things that was interesting though is that the St. Louis Public Schools had planned a career fair because their offices are right up the street, and they had planned an actual tailgate. And a few of their personnel reached out to me. They said, "What do you think about this?" I said, "It's a great space to be in. If you're looking for employees, you got people coming in, and you're right in the way because your office is right next door to the dome." So they had put a lot of energy and effort to it, and I began to see the uptick. So I just think we learned from this. I think we learned to take the bull by the horns. I know Bryan, you probably don't know this. The way that AD and I actually connected was his sister and I were talking about rebooting the Gateway Classic. And that's how he and I first began talking. AD and I were talking about this game, and we have the right people here to do it. Enterprise is centered here. Edward Jones is centered here. These people desire to have these types of events. AB, although it's not local anymore here, Bayer Corporation. So there's an appetite for it. It's funny, then it popped up. I said, well, AD, somebody beat us to our idea, but we know the mechanics of what it takes to make this happen. So now we have to go now and look and say the planning needs to start now for next year if it's going to happen.
All right, let's do this. Let's transition and let's kind of stay in topic or sort of in the division here of this space of the FCS. Before we get into some of our mid-season reports, I want to just kind of run down through some of the results from some of the other top 10 teams that we didn't win, of course. And I'm gonna just kind of run through the top 10 as it was from the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, their top 10 on the major level, FCS level. Obviously, Jackson State with the win. North Carolina Central, that game happened on Thursday. Obviously, that was the Thursday night game that happened before the weekend with a 59-20 win over Morgan State. Very surprised at how leading they were in that contest. I really thought I shouldn't have been, because one team was coming off a bye, the other team had just played. So I should have talked about red flags. That should have been a red flag to me. That instead of thinking that, oh, Morgan can cover 16, the 39 points is what the final outcome was. Davius Richard, 4 touchdowns passing, 2 rushing. Central, the first quarter actually was encouraging for Morgan, and then the second quarter happened. 28 points in the second quarter. Was 42-13 at half, and before you knew it, Central was gone to the races. Next up is South Carolina State. That game, I don't know, guys. That game might be the Dolphin to South Carolina. Is it too soon for that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe where are we at on the MEAC? Oh, too soon. It's too soon.
No, it's not too soon.
Okay.
Because I mean, outside of that, the only other person who looks like they're going to be a player, the MEAC, is Delaware State. So,
right,
if it's not the game, it's the game next to the game.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, so you had obviously tied for 3. You had Alcorn and FAMU. We understand Alcorn lost, FAMU won. Southern was 5. On just performance level, I haven't even put my votes in yet, but I'm more likely to jump Southern over FAMU. I mean, I'm just being real. I mean, in terms of performance on a week-to-week or a week, 2-week span. Preview's on a bye. Delaware State is the team that
it's something about Southern's schedule that just doesn't sit right with me. I'm sorry.
I know we'll talk about that. Yeah, with that. Well, but no. Okay, look at their season. Here's what you got to do with Southern. I think you got to look at Southern's schedule in blocks. You had the first block, right? That first
Memorial.
block where you had bad losing and you had bad losses, and then you beat up on a NAIA school, right?
Well,
No
they started
credit for
off
that.
beating up on the NAIA school. Then they
Yes.
got
So
slobber knocked the next 2 weeks. Then they
yes.
had the bad loss at Prairie View.
Right. Right. Okay. So
And
that's the end
and
of
not
block one. That's the end of
okay.
block one. Now you
Right.
go into this second block because they had a bye week, if I'm not mistaken, after that loss to Prairie View.
Yes.
Now
Yes,
you
they
go
did.
into this second block where they have now won 3 in a row. They sit in first place, and all of a sudden
then
everything is right. Right as rain.
And they got another bye week next week as they play Virginia Lynchburg.
Yeah, so that'll be the end of the second block, and then you got the third trimester coming up at the end of the season for Southern, where it all comes into focus as to whether they are or not what we think they are. And all of you who voted for Southern, you know.
Hey, Brian, let's think about this. You've got Southern, who will be coming off of Lynchburg, going into Jackson, and you got Jackson, who will be playing a tough Campbell team before these two meet. Does that sound like a recipe for?
I wish I knew what
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there.
What do you think the look-ahead line? Actually, we could go to Massey and look now and kind of do some predictive analytics to say, I wonder what the look-ahead or what the predicted outcome is. I think the predicted outcome, I would bet anything is less than a touchdown.
Well, keep talking. I'll punch it in.
I'll look it up. Delaware State is number 7. They just beat Norfolk State on homecoming 28-7. Don't look now, but Delaware State is 4-2. The last time they were 4-2 was 2012. It's their first. Now watch this, Kelvin. It's their first season. Oh, let me make sure I say this right. Their first conference opening road win, and their first conference opening win since 2014. 2 different things. I hope that made sense. Not only just their first conference win, but also the first conference road. 2 different things there. Since 2014.
Right.
Yeah.
Predictive score 31-23 Jackson State.
That's that's 7.
Jackson State Southern 8.
Yeah, but what did they say that? What did they set that line? What's the difference there? What is that? 7 or 6?
8. That's 8. That's 8.
Oh, I'm taking
8 points.
Okay, so if opportunity now, I'm taking Southern. If I had a chance now, I'd take Southern plus the points.
Okay.
Because they're going to be coming off a bye, whereas Jackson State is coming off a
unofficial
Campbell
bye.
game.
Yeah, unofficial bye with Lynchburg.
Oh, wait a minute. So they technically
unofficial
not a bye.
Unofficial bye with Lynchburg.
You had me thinking they were actually sitting at home not playing anybody.
Oh, and they are gonna be at home not playing anybody.
Stop it. Killing me. You're cold, man. That's cold. Let's see. Hampton was number 8. Got to give Hampton their due. They got their first win in the CAA. It had to go into overtime, but they beat Albany University 38-37. They got 4 touchdown passes from Malcolm Mays. Darren Butt, 16 carries, 124 yards and a touchdown. Jadakiss Bond, 7 catches, 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. I guess we were wrong about Hampton going 3-8, as now the worst they could do is 4-7, Drew. Do you think, can Hampton get to 500? I think now realistically, I gotta wonder and realistically say, you know what? Hampton might be able to get 5 to 6 wins this year.
Might. You said it right. They might. But I don't see 6. I can see them sneaking up and getting a 5th win, but I definitely don't see 6.
All right. Alabama State, of course, we mentioned they got a win over Valley. I think it was 24-9. North Carolina A&T beat up on Edward Waters 45-7. So not really much to talk about there, other than the fact they pretty much dominated that game. So I kind of keep moving there. It'll be interesting to see how people move in the rankings. Drew, let's do this. Let's take a timeout, come back, and we've got to do mid-season reports and our top 5. Anything else? Oh yeah, we got a few other things too. So let's get all that ready. Come back in 2 minutes. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working.
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders scalp shield, never not working.
We're all about feeding your family with meat and plant-based protein that's good for the planet, good for you, and just plain good. That's all the protein you need, all on your plate.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Our mid-season reports. Drew, hold on. Before we do that, though, we did a little work in the background, Kelvin, before the show, a little pre-show stuff. Here we get ready to talk about the halfway point of the season. We got to make note of 5 teams. I think it's 5. Yeah, 5 teams that started out anywhere from 0-2 to 0-4. And have put together some pretty nice streaks. And now, actually, who knows what the rest of their season, but they're trending in the right direction that their seasons could end with possible playoffs, maybe a conference championship, maybe even a conference title. Who knows? But let's kind of go through the teams that we wanted to mention here before we get into our mid-season report. How about a pair of teams that started out the year 0-2 and have now found a way to win 5 consecutive games after this past Saturday? None other than the Tuskegee Golden Tigers and the Florida A&M University Rattlers. Both now
And
5-2
what do they have in common?
after going 0-2.
And what do those two schools have in common, Brian?
I don't know. You, Drew? Oh, no, hold on. They are number – no, not besides you. Besides you,
I got degrees from both.
Right, but I think they are number 1 and 2 in all-time wins. Is that correct?
No, close.
No.
Both of them are top 5, though.
Oh, okay. How about Black College National Championships? No?
That's a good question. I think Tuskegee has more. I was just talking about me, my brother.
Oh, okay. So I was right. Okay. See,
Yeah.
I was right. I thought you were going with something else that we hadn't talked about. I was playing the guessing game. What's your take, Kelvin, on this run of late by FAMU and Tuskegee? And does either team have realistic opportunities to play postseason football?
I think so. I think this FAMU team is a little different than the one last year that lost to Jackson 7-6, I believe, to open the season. So although they might close this out in strong fashion, I don't think they get the opportunity to participate in the playoffs. That's just my opinion of that team by watching them. So although they put this together, I don't know if they get that invite this year.
I'm gonna take the opposite approach. If they win out the season, they will be 9-0 against FCS opponents. So that will they'll be 8-0 against FCS opponents because they'll have one win against the Division II. So they'll be 8-0 against FCS opponents. What you have to do, 8-1 against FCS opponents. What FAMU needs to be doing is what I have not seen FAMU do which they did last year, is start the media campaign. Because they need to put Florida A&M on the mouths of everybody who's on that committee who may be making those decisions. Hey, our only FCS loss is to Jackson State. And look what Jackson State not only did to us, but is doing to everybody as they are totally dominating everybody. If FAMU sells that to the committee, it's a tougher sell than it was last year. Hey, we only lost by 1. Yeah, we got our asses kicked. But this team is kicking everybody's ass. So y'all need to at least consider us for spot number 23 or spot number 24.
Let me tell you how I think FAMU could get in. 1, Southern has to beat Jackson State when they play. That's 1. And then 2, FAMU has to beat Southern at home. I think because at that point, you may still very much have Southern winning the West, or at least in contention to win the West, but they would have knocked off the most powerful team in the SWAC.
We beat team B. We are Team C. We lost to Team A, but we beat Team B. Right.
Yeah, so just like how some people rated FAMU to win the Black College National Championship last year because they beat the team that beat the team, and then they only lost by 1 to that team. Well, this time they can turn around and just we're not even going to talk about scores, but just turn around and say, well, we beat the team that just beat the team, and we've won every game since losing to that team. So we should, even if we got to go in as a 24 seed, which is the very last team in, we want to be in.
Right.
I think there's a reason why you have not heard the campaigning, and that's probably more so all the stuff going on with administration. There's not a solid based and rooted campaign from an established administrator, like previous. So I think that's the reason why you have not seen that from FAMU. Now, what about Tuskegee?
Flipping over to Tuskegee, I mean, we talked about shift of power with Union taking over the North and Benedict taking over the SIAC East. But in the SIAC West, it's looking like it's going to be more of the same with Tuskegee once again being in contention to be the SIAC West representative. And yeah, Tuskegee has been scoring some points and they've been giving up a bunch of points. But you get Coach Reginald Ruffin in a one-game scenario. I mean, I like what I've seen from Chennis Berry, but Reginald Ruffin has that pedigree. So you have to lean towards Tuskegee if Tuskegee and Benedict would happen to be the two representatives in the SIAC championship game. The only caveat to that is that game will be held in Columbia, South Carolina, as the SIAC East champion, in spite of record, will be the host this year.
Okay, while we're talking about an SIAC West team, let me go to another SIAC West team that started off far worse than Tuskegee. Kentucky State started off 0-4. But hey, look now. They've won 3 in a row. And actually, with their final schedule, they travel to Miles College. Then they host Tuskegee. And then they have Central State. Kentucky State is a player in this whole thing now. I think they, at worst case, could have a showdown for the West Division against Tuskegee in a couple weeks. Any thoughts there, Kelvin or Drew?
I'll start it off and then I'll pass it to Kelvin.
Go ahead.
Kentucky State does control their own destiny in the SIAC West because they went out, they win the West. And yes, the October 29th showdown in Frankfort, Kentucky could be for the West crown. It'll be won there because if either one of these teams come win this week and go into that game with wins, then it won't matter what happens the week after that. So the SIAC will be pretty much decided on October 29th with the win by both teams this week. And when you see this Kentucky State team with their, and I don't want to use the word Mickey Mouse offense because it's not a Mickey Mouse offense. It's an old school offense. And you don't face it every day. And you're used to seeing spread offenses. It's hard to simulate what Kentucky State does to a team in practice. So that is the advantage that they have. And anybody, SIAC or anywhere else, needs to be aware of it. And if Kentucky State gets into postseason play, that offense is built for cold weather football.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Do you want to add anything in there, Kelvin?
No, I think what Drew is saying is that most teams do not see what Kentucky State does on the offensive side of the ball on a consistent basis. But I believe that, yeah, you're right. They're built for that. And I will say this is that that Tuskegee piece is interesting. They're going to play Lane in Whitehaven, Tennessee, right outside of Memphis. That's going to be an interesting turnout there. So it'll be jam-packed inside of that space. And I could literally see Tuskegee closing this out without a blemish. We'll see how that goes.
I'm gonna pick on you for a second, Drew. You mentioned controlling your own destiny. Does Lane control their own destiny?
No. Lane needs some help. Because even if they defeat Tuskegee this week, the fact that Kentucky State beat them head-to-head, Kentucky State has the head-to-head, so Kentucky State would still have to lose another game to give Lane a shot.
Okay, that's what I wondered. That's what I wondered. Okay, here's another pair of teams that started out their season winless. Well, sort of winless, and follow me here, okay? One of them was Southern University. Now, when I say they started their season winless, they started their season winless against NCAA teams, 0-3. Now, in the mix in there somewhere was a 88-0 win over an NAIA school. Okay, so if you want to catch me on semantics, and particulars, okay. But against NCAA schools, they started off 0-3. The world is burning. What's going to happen? We don't have a quarterback. We don't have this. What's Dooley doing? Now look at Southern. 3 wins in a row. The post, I'll tell you, the exuberation and the excitement that they had after beating Alcorn speaks not only to that rivalry, but just where they were and where they're at. And so now, Kelvin, 3 wins in a row, it's a whole new world for Southern. Southern's chances, obviously, they have turned a 180 onto their season. What's your thought on the turnaround by the Jaguars?
I think it just speaks volumes as to how some of these early season schedules are constructed. I don't know if we saw the true Southern early on, but now I think we get a real good look at the balance and power that they have on their offense as well as defensive side. It was a strong victory for them against the Braves. They were on the road, and I think that game was actually going to be the home team was going to win that game. That's just my opinion. So moving forward, I think Alcorn's still in a good space because they had won 2 in a row. They're still in a good space, but they're going to need some help somewhere along the line. And so Southern's going to have to stay true, and I believe they'll get better as they go on. Dooley's got them well organized too. They played solid football on Saturday, so I look for them to be highly competitive coming down the stretch.
Drew, you want to add anything on Southern and their turnaround, or save it for the report card?
We'll save it for the report card. You've already got my thoughts on their schedule, so Southern still has a lot to prove to be. Just like, and it's just not Southern. Delaware State's in that same category also. Where we from, Kelvin? We from the Show Me State, so I still need them to show me.
Oh, man. And the last team, Alcorn State, started out 0-2. And, of course, ran off 3 in a row, obviously before the Southern loss. And I think everyone was really – I think there still is a lot of excitement and optimism. I'll stand up and say, I picked Alcorn to win the West. I think that is still a possibility. I think things, have to break a certain way for them. But I think that possibility is still there. What's been the most pleasing about the turn for Alcorn, Kelvin, as you look at their season through the halfway point?
I think so. We had a game with Stephen F. Austin that was mirrored with weather delays, as Drew and I experienced when we were at the MEAC SWAC Challenge. I do believe the fact that game probably should have been a potential victory, which gives you a different level of confidence. Secondly, we beat McNeese State, which was a big win for us. And I think going into SWAC, that game against Stephen F. Austin, coupled with the victory at McNeese, really showed, the Braves are a very, very solid team, but we're going to have to see that expansion of that offense by the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. The play calling in that game Saturday was, let's just say, it left a lot to be desired. So we'll see what happens moving forward, what adjustments they make, and especially rolling into November 19th against the Jackson State Tigers in Lorman, Mississippi.
Before we let Kelvin get out of here, Brian, I just wanted to throw this out. Do you remember back in one of our preseason predictions, I said the SWAC West winner was going to finish 6-2 at best, maybe even 5-3? We are trending. We are trending in that direction because I believe everyone in the West already has a conference loss. Correct? With Alcorn now losing, everybody has at least one conference loss. And there's still some head-to-head matchups in the West that still have to occur. And
you are correct.
Yeah, Alcorn, and let's be real, Southern and Alcorn still have Jackson State on their schedule. So the chance, And the reason I'm saying the chances that at least one of them, if not both of them, lose to Jackson State is a distinct possibility. Prairie View, Prairie View still has Alcorn on their schedule.
Prairie View plays Jackson State, don't they?
I don't know if they're on the schedule this year, but
no.
Okay. But I know Prairie View and Alcorn have not played, so that's at least another loss from one of those two teams. So we're looking realistic at a 6. We're looking realistic at a 6-2, possibly 5-3 West champion, just based on the matchups that still have to occur.
How about Texas Southern coming out of nowhere and winning the doggone thing? That would be the story of the year right there. Everybody else falls apart, and then Texas Southern finds their way into the championship game. 4-way tie. How about that? But anyway, pretty soon we'll be talking about tie-breaking scenarios. I'm going to give us about 2 weeks, and then by the time November rolls around, we'll all be looking at what are, again, the SWAC tie-breaking shows, how many points, who has to have what. We'll be looking at all that in just a second. So, all right. So, Kelvin, are you Drew? I don't know, Kelvin. Are you sticking around for the grades, or you got to run?
I got to run.
Okay, sounds good.
Last comments you want to get out?
Yeah, and your last.
Oh no,
let's give you the last word.
We got Texas Southern coming in this Saturday for homecoming at Alcorn State University. That's one of those games. They're 2-2. We need them at home, so we really need that win. So that win will perpetuate us moving forward, and then I'll have to look at the logistics of what the Jackson State game might actually mean on the 19th, since they're in the other side of the division. But we're looking forward to, Alcorn is going to close out the season strong, and it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a big win on Saturday, as well as the next 2 games coming up.
All right, Kelvin, let people know how they can find you if they want to reach out to you.
You can reach out to me at Twitter at 06 Alcorn. And that's the best way to reach out to me. And that would be all day, every day that I kind of keep up with that as we manage the sports piece here in St. Louis, as well as looking at value to the lives of kids through strong public educational systems.
All right. Well, hey, appreciate you taking time to come on and join us tonight. All right.
All right. Have a great one.
All right. Appreciate it. Kelvin Carter, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to hit him up, follow him, make sure to let him know you appreciate him coming on and joining us here on the show. All right, Drew, let's see how quickly we can get through our mid-season reports, and then drop out the BCSN top 5, the new top 5, our 4th poll, for major, not major, but D1 and non-D1, as we like to call it. Got so many voter in this poll, seen this poll. I got to get it off. You guys who are watching us on Facebook, YouTube, let us know if you agree, disagree. We're going on FCS here. So which group are we starting with first? SWAC East?
On the mid-season or the poll?
Mid-season report.
The way this works is let's go East.
Okay, SWAC East. We're giving just solid grades, no minuses, things of that nature. Solid grades, solid reporting being done here. We'll talk now. A lot of this is based on expectation and performance. So you tell us if you agree or disagree. All right. So give AD a second to pull up the correct stats. Okay, here we go. Report card time. Mid-season reports. Of course, Jackson State gets the only A in the book. Florida A&M gets a B. I'm kind of hard. I almost wanted to go C, but I think by nature of what they've done, B. Alabama State getting a B might surprise some people, but I think the expectation warrants the B. I don't know if a lot of people really expected much from Alabama State. New coach, young quarterback. So I got to give, and I think they've shown well in a couple of games, although they've had a couple of tough losses. Alabama A&M, now, even though with Drew, now they got to win against UAPB 31, would you still give them a C regardless of the win? Because I think when we did this was before the outcome of the game with UAPB.
They beat who, Brian?
UAPB.
I'm gonna ask you again. They beat who?
Okay, all right. So
They
we'll
they
leave
have
them
beaten the team. They have
by
beaten the
3.
teams that they should beat, and they have gotten mollywopped by the teams that they have lost to this year. So
All right. So
that's
in other
that's
words,
that's
no really
average.
good wins.
Yeah, that's
Okay, yeah,
average. They don't have
average.
they don't have a signature win, and they have bad losses.
All right. Mississippi Valley State. We give them I thought we were just giving them the incomplete. I know you got the withdraw, the recommendation. That's the withdraw. We're not giving out any F's. So if you're looking at it and say, oh well, I'd give them an F. It's mid-season. We're not giving out any F's at the mid-season point because we want to be encouraging. We want to be encouraging. We want to give these schools and these teams an opportunity to prove us wrong and to rise up. But that W there, as we said in the previous couple weeks ago, every now and then when you know you're doing so poor that you just need to kind of hit the eject button before it really affects your GPA, you got to go ahead and withdraw out the class. So that's what the W stands for. And then of course Bethune-Cookman is an I. Their complete season. I mean they're dealing with so much, and I really hate it for Coach Sims. I was really hoping this would be the bounce back year for Bethune-Cookman, but a year after dealing with the COVID stuff and everything with that program, and then they got to deal with Hurricane Ivan and being displaced, and so it's unfair to give Cookman a grade right now. Any thoughts, any points that I didn't hit in that report card there, Drew?
No, I think you hit everything on that one right there, Brian.
All right. Hit over to the West. The SWAC West. And here we go. SWAC West. No strong A's, but we got some good B's. Obviously, the top 3 teams get a B. Alcorn State, Southern, Prairie View. All of them have good wins and head-scratching losses. I think that's the best way of putting it. But all 3 teams look like they are going to be in the hunt to win the West. It's going to be really in the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season. Texas Southern getting a C, probably a C grade is average. Average, hey, look, they're 2-2 in conference. That's average, right? Sounds good.
Correct.
Arkansas Pine Bluff. Just holding on, man. Just holding on. A D right now. Again, no Fs because who knows? They could hit a run here in these last few games of the year, but right now
I need you to explain the G for Grambling, though, Brian.
We weren't given Fs, so we had to go to the next letter down, and that is a G. That's after F, right? After F comes what?
G.
So since they
haven't played with their G all season,
we gonna give them a G. So now this G's gonna hopefully carry and stay with them, and they will rise up and see how the rest of the season goes. But tough to deal with the whole thing. I hated that those kids had to go through that, but at least wiser heads prevailed and gave them their sticker back for their first home game. And you know what? Probably should have came out with the win. But they sure enough had opportunities. So you guys let us know if you agree or disagree on those. Some of you guys are really hard giving out Fs and stuff like that. Again,
I want to see who Monte Bennett said was garbage.
Oh well, look. The only reason we didn't give Fs is we're being encouraging. We're being encouraging. Now you wait to the final report card.
Or is the G for garbage? I wondered is the G for garbage.
Oh wow! See, there you go, Drew. Let's jump over to the MEAC here. Let me go through the MEAC here. All right, so the MEAC report cards. North Carolina Central gets an A. I'm encouraged, even despite the loss to Campbell. I still think they're deserving of an A.
They got a quality win.
Yeah, and I think when I
They've
was
got
looking
that
at the
quality
numbers,
top 20. They've got that quality top 25 win to balance out the 2 garbage wins that they have against Winston-Salem and Virginia Lynchburg.
yeah, no, Central has the. I think I was looking at the numbers. They've got the statistically. I was trying to see where they were. I know they're averaging something like 44 points a game. I mean, it's up there, uh, top 20, maybe top 15 in the nation. I just really and I heard somebody else say this. So, they, look, I know Shedeur Sanders is getting a lot of attention for Player of the Year, but right now, if I had 3 players that were candidates for Black College Football Player of the Year, I'd have Shedeur, Jada Byers, and the third one, honestly, would be Davius Richard.
That
You
was
agree or
Joshua
disagree with
Sims
the 3?
mentioned that. Joshua Sims mentioned this morning on Dr.
He
Kavir's
mentioned that. Okay, I wasn't
inside the
listening, so
HBCUs.
I can say that was an original
And
thought by me.
Joshua Sims said it and had to make Charles take pause. He is the best quarterback not named Shedeur Sanders in Black college football.
The thing about Shedeur, which is separating him, is, and statistically, Jackson State is like number 3 in the nation completion percentage, 72%. That's the completion percentage right now for Jackson State. And you know, there was a sound clip after, I think it was last weekend's game, Drew, where they talked about Shedeur missing 16, had 16 incompletions. So, I mean, let's just pause for it. They're not professional quarterbacks throwing out a completion rate of 70-something%. So that right now is the separating factor between Richard and Sanders. And who knows? I mean, if both get an opportunity to play against each other, I think we're going to have a great game. Long way away. So, but anyway, go back to the grades there. Find a lot of people saw them.
Move on to the independents.
I mean, everybody saw them. I just want to make sure. So you had Delaware State with a B. That's the most surprising to me. And I know you have your questions and doubts about their schedule as well.
Lincoln,
Morgan
PA,
State,
Virginia Lynchburg.
yeah. That's 2 of the 4 wins.
Yes.
But I think they're playing above expectation. How about that? Because I don't think they were 1 or 2 or even 3 in terms of preseason prediction for the conference.
And if you take it one step further, Brian, they beat the Robert Morris, who may be one of the worst rated teams in FCS also.
All right, now you're completely making me rethink the B, but that's all right. They got a B, so it's just midterm report card. Doesn't go into the computer system just yet.
And they beat a Morgan State who's in transition. Excuse me, no, I checked it back. They didn't beat Morgan State. They beat Norfolk State.
Oh, well, Norfolk State's playing like they're in transition right now.
Yes.
So you see South Carolina State and Morgan with the C's, Howard with the D. They lost this past weekend to Howard, and you know that just the MEAC conference is about to get started, so maybe we'll see what happens. Norfolk State just bleeding out all over the place. I don't know what they're doing over there. So let's go to the independents here quickly. Our independents are Hampton B. Hey, a lot of people thought Hampton would finish 3-8, winless in CIAA. No, they got a win under their belt. They're 4-2, hanging around in the top 10 polls, top 5 polls, or stuff like that. So Hampton is and I'm one of those people that think they can get to 6 wins. Drew doesn't believe he can get to 6. They're at 4 now.
No.
I think they can get to 6.
No, 5 max.
No, you say no?
5 and 6.
So to bet. You got 5. I got 6.
Okay, well, you may double your wings then.
I'll be able to add a soda to those wings. Exactly. That'd be nice.
Exactly.
We'll have a nice
A,
postseason
a,
celebration.
a soda, and an adult beverage.
There you go. All right. A&T State, give them a C, even though they just picked up a win over Edward Waters. Tennessee State, they just got their first conference win, but right now, for a team that had that was predicted to be one of the preseason predicted to be one of the best, they just had some tough losses. So right now, a D, but still a lot of season in front of them. All right, Drew.
One thing
Anything that
about
we
that
have
Hampton
left out?
schedule.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
one thing about that Hampton schedule. 3 of the 4 victories have come against HBCUs. 2 on the FCS level, beating Howard and Norfolk, and then of course beating my Tuskegee Golden Tigers. So 3 of the 4 victories are against HBCUs. They are an HBCU, so that weighs a little bit more with me than maybe some of the other teams, because they did not have to go out in a non-conference schedule and schedule those HBCUs.
Right. Now, here's what's interesting about their upcoming schedule. Speaking of Hampton, the fact that they've got University of Richmond, who I think is ranked. I got to go back and look and see who's ranked, but I think Richmond. Then they play at Villanova University, who I think Villanova is one of the top teams in the country. And then they host William and Mary, host Elon. 3 of the last 5 games remaining are at home against Richmond, William and Mary, and Elon University. I don't know.
Where do you get those other 2 victories at, Brian?
Well, that's the challenge. Look, who knows, man? I mean, you got three home games. You might be able to get 2. Protect home field, get 2. I got to go back and look at the rankings and the ratings to see where these other 5 are. So maybe later in the week I'll tweet and kind of see and just kind of reaffirm my 6-win prediction for Hampton. Okay, let's hear it. Let's do a BCSN top 5. Jeff Roberts said Elizabeth City State got a homecoming conference win. Yeah, that's another thing, Drew. I did not do conference. Hold on. We didn't do conference homecomings. Let me see real quick. I'm just on auditing now. Let me see who got homecoming wins. Shawan got a homecoming win. Elizabeth City State got a homecoming win over Lincoln, PA. St. Aug got a homecoming win. Livingstone,
First win of the
not so
season.
lucky. Yeah, South Carolina State got a homecoming win over Lynchburg. Going down the list here, Clark homecoming win over Savannah State. Norfolk State, of course, lost. Miles losing by 3 to Lane on homecoming. That's fun. And I think that's it. So, yeah, we'll make mention of this upcoming's homecoming schedule after we introduce the top 5. So let's have it, Drew. Let's look at the top 5. We're going to start with what level first?
Non-D1.
Non-D1. These are computer-generated rankings, top 5. In the hut first, or just starting with 5? All right, there we go. Got a list of teams that are in there. Teams that are just outside of the top 5. If this were a poll of top 10, you'd have, it'd go anywhere from Fayetteville State on down. So Virginia State, Savannah, Lane, Bowie, Tuskegee. So all of those might be in your classic top 10s, but we only do 5 because that's what's most important. Top 5. So let's go. Here we go. Top 5. Number 5, Fort Valley State, who defeated Morehouse 56-28 this past week. Upcoming, they've got Clark Atlanta traveling north to Atlanta. Fort Valley State still alive. They've got can't look past Clark, but down the road, they've got that key matchup in the Fountain City Classic against Albany State. Number 4, Langston. I'm personally surprised to see Langston here, but hey, Still sitting at 5-1, 4-1. Tough loss to Texas West. Now they got another top 20 matchup against Ottawa University of Arizona. So Langston will look, if they can avoid losing 2 in a row, there's chances of playoffs and winning the conference are still in play, but they got to win this upcoming week. So number three is, I believe, previously number 2, and that's Albany State, dropping to 5-1, 3-1 in the conference by nature of the 24-20 loss to Benedict. They're moving this upcoming week, traveling to Savannah State. Number 2, of course, Benedict, leapfrogging. Of course, now they are the number 2 team, unbeaten for the first time in school history. This will be their 3rd homecoming contest at Morehouse this upcoming week. They've knocked off Fort Valley Road. They've knocked off Fort Valley and they knocked off Albany State. So good luck to you, Morehouse. Good luck to you.
If you're a football team in Georgia, do not schedule Benedict for your homecoming.
Not anymore. Can't do it anymore. Got to look for a new opponent. Got to look for a new team. All right, and of course, still the number 1 team, I think for the 4th consecutive week, Virginia Union, by nature of the big win over Bowie State, 27-24 in overtime. They travel in PA this upcoming week. And, hey, we'll see how many yards Jada Byers can put up. Over or under 265 for Jada Byers, Drew. Over or under 265 this week. Any thoughts?
And they had who? They had who again?
Lincoln, PA this upcoming week.
I'm taking the over, and I'm taking the super over with 3 bills.
Ooh, okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's go over to Division One side. And for the Division One teams, we'll see what we have here. Again, these are all computer generated. The BCSN top 5 takes a look at all of the wins and losses, conference wins, evaluates them all, puts them in a nice formula, and spits out these numbers. These are teams that are in the hunt, could be anywhere from 6 to 10 in your traditional poll. You've got Alabama State, North Carolina A&T State just sitting outside of the top 5. Tennessee State, surprisingly, we talked about that tough schedule. They got their first conference win, so they're now 1-0 in conference despite having a 2-4 overall record. Prairie View might be surprising to a lot of people. Don't panic, don't freak out, because it'll all wash. What is it you said, Drew? It'll all
market correction. You have a market correction.
Market correction will come in a couple of weeks. So just relax as you look at the numbers. Of course, 4-2, 1-2 in the CIAA. Defeated Albany. They host Richmond. It is Hampton's homecoming this weekend, so that'll be interesting. And then
there's Richmond. Yeah, it is Hampton's homecoming. Correct.
Yeah, they got that's a home game, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the Alcorn State Braves also 3, and they might be 3-4, but anyway, 3-3, 2-1. Lost to actually they lost to Southern 21-17. So forgive the little typo there. Okay.
Yeah, they lost to themselves.
Yeah, number 5 in the top 5 comes in Southern University, 4-2, 3-1. Good wins over the last 3 weeks. Defeated Alcorn 21-17. Their homecoming is coming up on the Bluff. They're going to take on VA Lynchburg, their second non-NCAA opponent this season. Just going to say that. Their second non-NCAA opponent this year. Number 4, Delaware State. Wow. Very surprised. But look, hey, 4-2, 1-0 in conference. Big win on the road against Norfolk State for homecoming. Let's see if they can do it again. Now they go to Howard's, and their homecoming, they're the homecoming dish for Howard. And let's see if they can play spoiler for a second consecutive week. Delaware State, number 4. Number 3, the Rattlers, Florida A&M, 5-2, winners of 5 in a row, 3-1 in conference. Escaped with a win against Grambling State. That's about as good as I can say it. But 20-16 was the score. Rattlers are on a bye. And, yeah, they got a lot of stuff to clean up. So it's a good bye week. Number 2, of course, same team that's been number 2 for a few weeks now. I think every week in the poll, if I'm not mistaken.
They dropped to number 3 last week.
They what?
They had dropped to number 3 last week.
Who was 2?
Do not remember. I think Florida A&M was actually 2 last week after the Central loss.
Okay.
Yes.
That's surprising. Hey, Central 5-1, 1-0 defeat. That's a big win on Thursday. Morgan State 59-20. At South, I think this is a huge game. Huge game. South Carolina State. Remember, this is the point of the season last year where South Carolina State woke up and got on a run and ended up winning the MEAC. So, North Carolina Central can put these guys to bed if they can get a win on the road. So we'll see how they handle preparation in that game. That'll be interesting. Of course, without any doubt, the undisputed number 1 team, Jackson State. They host Campbell for homecoming. Very interesting homecoming opponent. Should be a good crowd. Probably 60,000 will be in attendance. And it'll be a good game. I think what Campbell did to North Carolina Central, this is where we find out how good. I think this, well, I don't know. What do you think of this, Drew? The comparison that we'll find out not only about Campbell, but we'll find out about North Carolina Central by way of this common opponent in Campbell. Fair? Do you like to do that kind of stuff?
I mean, you have to take it under consideration, but Campbell is going to come in and surprise a few people. People in Jackson kept an eye on that Campbell Central game because not only because Campbell was a future opponent for Jackson State, but the realistic chance that Jackson State and Central could line up against each other in the Celebration Bowl, and that is the only common opponent between these two. This game has a lot more intrigue, but I am going to tell you this. I think Campbell is 0-2 on the road thus far. I expect him to go 0-3 on the road. I do not expect him to beat Jackson State, but I do expect them to give Jackson State a good run for their money and possibly expose a chink in the Jackson State armor. We don't know what that chink is, but I think Campbell may expose that chink in the Jackson State armor in the first half. But we've seen what Jackson State does at halftime with those halftime adjustments. They'll come out in the second half and win the game. But it's going to be a lot closer than people are anticipating.
Interesting. And what did you say the line was on Massey? Do we know, or did you happen to look? That was a Southern game. That was a Southern game.
That was a Southern game. I will find out what the Jackson game is in just a moment.
Yeah, I it'll be interesting to see what kind of predictive analytics that game has behind it. And we'll start to break down here in a second the upcoming week ahead. Games being played primarily on Saturday, October 22nd.
Massey has that game as a 31-24 game for Jackson State. Gives Jackson State a 69% win chance, and they have Campbell rated as number 48.
Okay.
Massey does, whereas Jackson State comes in number 23 in the Massey scale.
Okay.
So this will be a top 50 opponent.
It'll be interesting to kind of break down Campbell. I'm going to be looking to those. Oh, you want to add? Go ahead.
Yes. With Campbell coming in at number 48, according to Massey, this will be the only top 50 opponent that Jackson State will face this year. according to the Bassett scale, where their next highest rated opponent will be, ironically, the week following that with Southern, who is currently rated number 56. Previously, the highest rated team was Florida A&M, who was rated number 60.
Yeah.
And just look at all the way ahead, Alcorn is 64.
Okay. Well, look, I think the thing that's helpful for Jackson State is that they continue to win and do it in dominating fashion. See, when you don't have the opportunity to play those other schools that are in these other conferences because of whether it be schedule or postseason play, all you can do is go out and completely wreck the sticks on your schedule. You know what I'm saying? So for them to dominate total yardage, scoring offense, scoring defense, I believe that's why you see Coach Prime telling these guys to dominate, continue to score, continue to keep your opponent out of the end zone. Because look, they may very well be ranked number 5 in these latest polls. I mean, they're up to number 7, and two top 5 teams lose in front of them this week. Now, one of those teams was playing I think the number 1 team lost to the number 2 team. So you had that loss, and then there was a team that was number 6, I think, or number somewhere either 3 or 6 in the FCS that also lost. So you could see realistically there's a chance Jackson State could be number 5 nationally. But at the A, you know, it's not going to matter really on that national scale. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously the furthest Jackson State will go will be to the Celebration Bowl. So you could very well look here's what you could realistically have, Drew. How about this? How about an unbeaten Jackson State potentially finishes and the number 2 team in the country? I mean, that's assuming they run the table, continue with their statistical dominance that they've shown. They realistically could finish as the number 2 team in the nation. I
can
think
see it.
I think they're trending.
Probably number 3. I think number 3 would be as high as they go because they'll probably give the 2 people in the FCS championship game 1 and 2.
That makes sense.
By default.
That makes sense. Yeah. So high. Okay. All right. I got you. Okay. Games upcoming this week, and then we'll wrap it up, Drew. What are some of the games that have your interest or that caught your eye for this upcoming week?
Give me a second to pull up my schedule. But I know the games that I was really watching were primarily in the SIAC because I like to take the smaller schools, right? I'll leave the big boys to you.
Okay.
And in the SIAC this upcoming week, you've got a couple of interesting battles. I think I've already talked about one of them being the Tuskegee Lane game. As a lane that will a game that will determine the SIAC West, along with Kentucky State Miles. We'll get a clear picture of the SIAC West after this particular week. Flip it over to the SIAC East. You have to look at the Albany State Savannah State game, as Albany State tries to rebound from that loss to Benedict. And I hate to say this, I would hate to be Savannah State in this particular game. I would hate to be Savannah State for the next 2 weeks. You got Albany State this week. You got Fort Valley next week. Albany State is coming off of a loss. This is their bounce back. This is their get right game. Savannah State is their get right game. That's what Albany State is looking for this game to be. And then next week, when you go to when Fort Valley travels to you, Fort Valley is going to use this game and make sure this is not their trap game so that they're not looking ahead to the Albany State game. I'm telling you, the Fountain City Classic is going to really mean something this particular year. And in the CIAA, it has to be Shawan and Bowie State. For Shawan, even though they're not an HBCU, they need this win to set up a potential North matchup next week on October 29th against Virginia Union. And for Bowie State, for the first time in a long time, they are in the position where they're playing a spoiler. They're not the chase anymore. They are in the spoiler position that Bowie State, with the Virginia Union win, is eliminated from winning the CIAA North. Because even if Virginia Union loses their last two and is tied with Bowie State, they own the tiebreaker against Bowie State. So Virginia Union can knock Bowie State out of the mix this week. So those are the three games that I am particularly looking for on the small school level. And Brian, there's a realistic possibility that on November 5th, we'll have all four of our division races known before we go into November 5th. We can have everything decided October 29th. SIAC West, SIAC East, CIAA North, and CIAA South could all be decided on October 29th, on or before October 29th, Brian, with 1 week to go in the regular season.
Okay. I was just doing a bit of a bumping around here, trying to look at the top 25. How about I came across a computer rankings poll in the FCS that actually has none other than Jackson State power rated as the number 1 team.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Just juxtaposed against South Dakota State, which of the Missouri Valley, who just defeated North Dakota State this past weekend. So that'll be the new number 1 in most of the FCS polls. But again, as the numbers and the analytics start to find their way into the bloodstream of voters, yeah, Jackson State will move into the top 5. I will not be surprised to see them 5. So one of my key matchups.
Hold on. While we're there, since we're talking polls, before you switch over to FCS, inkblotsports.com, very good predictor of Division II sports, not just football, but all Division II sports. They run the same numbers that the people on the committees run, and this is the report that they use to basically seed teams and rank teams for the playoffs. I'm gonna go through the top 10 for Super Region 2, which is where the CIAA and the SIAC compete in. Inkblot
What's
Sports.
the site? So
Inkblot.
give that. What spell?
INKBLOT sports.com.
Okay.
And they do it for all Division II sports. But going looking at Super Region 2, the top 10. Delta State is number 1. Benedict is number 2. Virginia Union is number 3. Wingate is 4. Fort Valley is 5. West Florida is 6. Lenore Rhine is 7. Albany State is 8. Fayetteville State is 9. And Tusculum is 10. And if I take it 2 spots further, Limestone is 11. Tuskegee 12. Boss Hill 13. Kentucky State 14. So we've got some and 3 HBCUs in the top 8, 4 in the top 10.
3 in the top 5.
Yeah, 3 in the top 5.
Fort Valley State.
5 in the top 10. 7 of the top 15.
Okay.
Or HBCU schools. But what's important? Top 7 are the ones who get to go to the playoffs. Number 1 gets a bye. So Benedict not only is in a place where they're number 2, where they can potentially hold, but they could potentially catch Delta State.
Oh, they are. Yeah, I'm looking at the statistics. They are right there on Delta. Delta. I don't know what Delta State's schedule. If they stumble, Benedict can very well easily pass them.
And now you see why I say the Fort Valley Albany State game is still going to be worth something in that Fountain City Classic, assuming both these teams went out. because the top 7 go, assuming that there is a division winner is not rated 9 or above. And right now, your division winners are above them. Delta State in the Gulf South, Wingate in the SAC. So you don't have to worry about a preferred qualifier because your preferred qualifiers are already ranked high enough. So those 2 teams will be in a good state. But Fayetteville State, Virginia Union can still get in by losing the CIAA championship. The only way Fayetteville State gets in is by winning the CIAA championship.
Okay.
Same thing potentially with a Tuskegee or a Kentucky State.
All right. You good?
Yes.
Okay. So over for the Division 1 level side, my top. Did you happen to mention the Lane Tuskegee game?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. Just checking. Sorry. All right. North Carolina Central traveling to South Carolina State in Orangeburg. That's a 1:30 Eastern. It's Hall of Fame day for the Bulldogs. Former athletes. They'll also be wearing pink as they do their breast cancer awareness stuff. That game will be on ESPN Plus. That will be a big showdown, as already mentioned, about why that's important. Of course, we've already talked about homecoming. It's a blue out for Jackson. 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern on ESPN Plus. Campbell comes to town to take on Jackson State. That'll be interesting. I'm going to go, I don't think you mentioned Langston's game, but Langston is at home hosting Ottawa University of Arizona. That's a big contest. That's 2 Central, 3 Eastern. Langston needs a win to stay in contention. I also think the Texas Southern's on a bye, traveling to Alcorn, who just suffered their first major conference loss in Lorman. ESPN Plus, 2 Central, 3 Eastern. That's a game to pay attention to because I don't think people are expecting Alcorn to lose too many more games, or at least not a game to Texas Southern. So if anybody's going to play spoiler down the stretch, it's going to be Texas Southern in their last 4 conference games. Be wary of Texas Southern. That's all I got to say. Don't take them lightly. And the only other Division 1 game that I'll be looking at, I'm looking to see what Hampton does hosting Richmond for homecoming. That'll be at Armstrong Stadium, of course. I predicted 6 wins, so I feel real good about Hampton getting 6 if they can get a win there. So those are the main games. A lot of other games. I will always encourage you to go to onadan.com or onadan2.com to take a look at the schedule of every game, including where those games will be played. Got a lot of games on ESPN2, but you also have some games on BCU Go. And I don't have the HBCU League Pass Plus schedule, but I'm sure that'll come out here during the course of the week. All right, Drew, I think we got everything, man. A lot of stuff that we went through. Yeah, that's going to do it, man. Any closing words or thoughts here so we can get out of here?
Hey, just thank y'all for hanging out for this supersized show once again this week. 3 hours, Brian, but it didn't really seem like 3 hours as we was going through it. As I look at my clock on my computer now, and still can't get off of this one, Brian. I should be in St. Louis, hanging out with some cousins and some family and some friends, figuring out how I'm going to get to the airport in the morning. But I'm at home in South Georgia, so thank you, Mr. Promoter, for ruining my plans.
Oh, wow. I didn't want to, you know what I did forget to mention, Drew, our standings in our picks contest. Oh,
which
God,
I forgot to pick this week.
Oh, no, you didn't. Did you really?
Oh, hold on. Evan Moore, I decided to fly instead of driving because it's a 12-hour drive from where I am in South Georgia to St. Louis. So I wanted to kind of maximize my time that I had there. So that's why I decided to fly instead of driving up. Plus, I had to be back Monday for some other obligations, so I wouldn't have been able to drive back to be back in time to handle some business Monday afternoon. Just have to throw it out there.
Yeah. Looks like I went 3-2. Well, Drew, I guess on the season standings, yeah, I got a little bit closer. I closed the gap. We've got in terms of total wins, I've come up to where you are now with 23 on the year, although way too many losses for me. I'm the only one in double digits. Kelvin Rozier and Jamie both have 29 total wins. BJ Jones has 28. So, I mean, that's how it's rolling. You and I have 23. Isn't that something? We got to get a little bit better, Drew. What are they? I'm going to have to, again,
but I'm a week behind.
Well, you're a week behind now. So, see, now you're in competition now with Mike Reed, who I think he's a week behind, too. So, I got to take a look at that. But anyway.
This was my bye week.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's what I should do. Is everybody? You know what? That's a good idea. Maybe I should make everybody take a bye week. I have to explore that. Okay, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Hey, I'm going to break this up into like 3 different segments on the BCSN Pod Zone. So if you have not gone and checked out the Pod Zone on Amazon Music, we're on Amazon Music now. So you can say, Alexa, play BCSN Pod Zone. I got a feeling you will find our podcast. Somebody try it. And then when you try it, film it, record it, and then tag us. I'd love to see how that works out. You know, again, so BCSN Pod Zone. We're on Apple, we're on Amazon Music, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Google, we're on iHeart. We're everywhere. And that's where you can listen to all the shows that are part of the Black College Sports Network. I'll make sure to put up all the shows from the Carlos Brown show over the weekend. Dr. Cavill's Sunday morning recap show will be up there. And this show will be sliced up into 3 different parts. So that way, when you start your week off on Monday, you can catch up to everything that we have done. So again, that's BCSN Pod Zone. Drew?
Just got an update from Inkblot. New Super 2 regional ranking projections. Benedict 1, Delta State 2, Union 3, Wingate 4, Lador-Ryan 5, Fort Valley 6, West Florida 7, Albany 8, Tuskegee 9, Fayetteville 10.
When did they update this? While we were in the middle of the show? What are we?
This was via the Twitter. I think he usually tweets first before the website is updated.
Wow. Okay. We'll go ahead and make sure to retweet. So we'll make sure to retweet it as well. And that's interesting. So, all right. Well, that's going to be it for the show. Go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on the Google and Apple App Store. My JBN, my BCSN is what you're searching. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button on Facebook and on YouTube. Share the show in its video format, but more importantly, go download the podcast version. Even if you don't listen, just download, rate, and review. That'll do it for us. We'd appreciate that. I'd love for you to listen, but maybe you've already listened. But then share the show with a friend. If everybody shared with just 2 people, the world would be a better place. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Yep, Tamara T, we're putting together a good show. We might have a big special guest on Tuesday's ONG Strike Zone. Shh, big secret. We'll see if it comes through. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, for AD Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. Thanks for hanging in with us. Peace out.
Well, holla.
But you stay on hard.